Welcome to a place for those in search of truth and conviction, a place where we discuss culture, politics, philosophy, and everything in between. I'm Luke, and I'm here with Russ. This is Hardly Strictly Politics.
Yes, dear listener, HSP Boys back in the saddle once again for episode number 22. Thank you so much for jumping in the saddle with us. Our very favorite caliber of bullet, by the way, dear listener, the 22 long rifle. Why? Because that's all we need. HSP Boys blazing the trail for you, dear listener, guiding you to the truth. 2 separate continents, 2 separate countries, 2 separate adult beverages, 2 separate yellow vests and 1 united song, 2 separate paths to the same inevitable conclusion, 2 separate 2s, 1 for each of you, combined into 1 fine number, and that number is 22. HSP Boys got our 22s in hand, in the saddle, and we fixing to throw it down for you, dear listener, so get comfy. Find us on Facebook at Zero Gravity Med. Same thing on Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. And you can always find us right here in our own house. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. That's feedback at zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, all 3 under Zero Gravity Media. Most of all, dear listener, you can now find us on YouTube. Yes, indeed, we YouTube now. Check us out at Zero Gravity Media. Look for our closed-up Zero-G logo so as to avoid our imposter. It cannot miss us. Now, we have overtaken our imposter as the lead search term under Zero Gravity Media, dear listener, so this is nothing but good. Also, drop by our website where you'll find all our shows, as well as the ability to comment directly on each show, as well as to send us a message using the contact form. We'll also be writing articles soon, so get ready for that, dear listener, any minute now. And if you would like to write an article for Zero Gravity Media and Hardly Strictly Politics, we would be more than delighted to host you. Luke, how's it going, man? What's new with you today, brother?
Good, man. Yeah, and if people want to send us an email, just go to zero-gravity-media.com/contact. You can send us an email there.
Perfect. Yes, sir.
Well,
yes,
yeah,
sir.
just straight through the contact form, make it nice and easy for you.
Yes, and we're there for you, dear listener. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, dude. That should have been right there. I just forgot. So,
Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good. Actually, I thought about that earlier this week, but I never told you to do that. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, still I knew, but anyways, minor mistake. We'll tweak it for next week, dear listener. We'll get this nailed down. So, all right. First of all, dear listener, a major mea culpa about last week, and we're going to jump right into the content here with the Yellow Jackets. First and foremost, that was far from a peaceful protest last week, dear listener. The news hadn't hit the media when HSP Boys recorded number 21. I just didn't know. I was following the RT, Russia Today feed. Everything looked all fun and games, but man, it was not. Paris did indeed burn. And I was wrong. Wait, what can I say? When I'm wrong, I'm really wrong, and I'm perfectly happy to admit it. So... man, that was...
Yeah, but you weren't wrong when you said that at the time, though.
True. True.
I'm gonna stand up for our accuracy rating here and say that you were not wrong when you said that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take it, man. Thank you. Thanks for bailing me out on that. I really do appreciate it, Luke. I mean, the fact is, yes, we didn't really know that, they had driven a forklift through the Department of some ministry. I can't remember what it was. Drove a forklift through the door. There was a boxer who I can't recall his name right now, but I've got his name in an article I'm going to read to you here in just a little bit. Kicked a cop's ass in full riot gear, man. I mean, there with his shield and his helmet and everything, and this boxer still just absolutely kicked his ass. So there was a lot of violence going on, bunch of arrests, all kinds of stuff. Knowing
the Frenchies, I bet they made sure to find a certified forklift driver to drive it. They were like, who's certified to drive this?
Probably so. Yeah, that's probably true, man. And I don't know if you saw the clip from when it happened. I guess I saw it maybe Monday morning, Monday night. And dude, so he takes this forklift, bashes it through the door, right? Boom! And then he jumps off the back. He's all like, yeah! Arm raised up in the air. He had the time of his life doing that. So, yeah.
You saw the time when they used the forklift to drop the burning car onto that toll booth,
yes, sir,
right?
I did. I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, so, things are getting pretty heated, dear listener. I mean, make no mistake about it. We do know that the protests are going on right now, right on cue. We know that 36 people were arrested this morning before the protests even began. Now, at the moment, just kind of like last week, Luke and I have been scouring the inner tubes, trying to find out information about the Yellow Vest protest, and there's really not much being reported about in the mainstream media. We assume that this is probably a cover-up, that they're trying to keep this information down. Because, dear listener, here's the fact of the matter. The establishment politicians, and particularly banks, which we're going to get to here in a minute, do not want these protests. They don't want this spreading from country to country. They don't like this populism at all, right? They are globalist fixtures, and they want to continue to spread their globalist agenda. So the only reason that they cover it, dear listener, is that it would be entirely just facetious. I'm not facetious, but just entirely ill-advised and ignorant for them not to cover it, because this is a big deal, dear listener. I mean, man, it's way more widespread throughout France than I thought, by far, man, and we're hearing figures about 3,500 protesters in France last weekend. Wrong. That was in the tens of thousands easily. 50,000 throughout the countryside. Wrong. I would say right off the bat, triple those numbers right off the bat, dear listener. And because this is a serious happening. It's a serious happening.
Yeah. This is just classic example of the media trying to blackpill everybody into thinking that this is smaller than it is.
Yeah, it is. It is, man. So, and they can't have this getting out, So, a couple of developments that went down during the week. On, I believe it was last Tuesday, France decided that they were going to crack down on the Yellow Vests. Macron decided himself that this was going to happen. I read from a Zero Hedge piece. France is signaling it's making preparations for a massive new crackdown on the Yellow Vests anti-government protests that have gripped the country for 7 weeks. A new law under consideration could make any demonstration illegal to begin with, if not previously approved by authorities, in an initiative already being compared to the so-called dictatorship law in Ukraine. In the name of reining in the violence, in the name of reining in the violence that has recently included torching structures along the prestigious Boulevard Saint-Germain in Paris and smashing through gates of government ministry buildings, the French government appears to be set to enact something close to martial law scenario, prohibiting almost any protest and curtailing freedom of speech. Prime Minister Edouard Philippe presented the new initiative to curtail the violence and unrest while targeting troublemakers, quote, troublemakers, and banning anonymity through wearing masks on French TV channel TF1 on Monday night. He said the law would give police authority to crack down on, quote, unauthorized demonstrations at a moment when police are already arresting citizens for merely wearing a yellow vest, even if they are not directly engaged in protests in some cases. So, bureaucratic mistake number 20, Macron, and you're dealing with this so far. Thanks, bro. You just kicked the hornet's nest once again. You kicked the hornet's nest. What an idiot, man. You have absolutely lost control. You have lost control, and everything that you do at this point weakens your position and strengthens the position of your people. You have now put yourself as an enemy to your own people, you stupid ass. And you're going to lose, dude. People, when they unite like this, are strong. Macron weak, people strong. Let me just break it down for you simply like that. Macron weak, people strong. Yeah.
So, okay, so break this down a little bit more, parse this out a little bit more for me. So basically they are trying to make it such that in order to demonstrate, you have to get a permit, so they don't have freedom of assembly.
That's correct.
Anymore.
That's
or at least they're
correct.
trying to pass this.
Yes, sir. That is spot on correct. Yep.
Yeah, I don't see how that doesn't end badly.
In France? Yeah, man. I mean, they fought and died for those rights, just as we did here in the United States, man. And they're showing no indication of letting that go easily so far, But I'm with you. I don't see much chance of this working out well for Macron. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, what is Macron supposed to do at this point? He's already capitulated on the diesel tax, and then they have these 42 directives, that one of which is the diesel tax, but
I mean, is he just supposed to capitulate on all 42 of these directives and then they'll be happy and they'll disperse? I mean, I don't know. There's not really some ideological place that they're coming outside of just these sort of concrete 42 directives.
Which, as we detailed, dear listener, those are just a train wreck and really disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a patchwork. I mean, I can see Macron throwing up his hands in a way and just being like, what the hell do you want me to do? What do you want? What am I supposed to do here?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I haven't even really thought of it that way, but that is a very, very fair point, very salient and correct.
Now, I'll tell you, that being said, I'm 100% on board with you that what he shouldn't be doing is trying to stifle freedom of assembly.
Yes. Yes, sir. And, painting a target on his own stupid self as, the enemy of this protest, right? Where I'm at this point, what I would do, I would give some speeches on live television like our president did this week, and we're going to get to that in a minute, dear listener. I would just start talking, right? And I think that this is a perfectly rational place to start from. What you just said, Luke, and I'd never considered it before, but Macron could just stand up and say, okay, listen, I've made these concessions, right? I'm trying to understand these 42 directives and I just don't get it. Can we just sit down and talk about it? Like, what is it you cats want? What's going to make you stop rioting and driving forklifts around and smashing into buildings and blowing stuff up? Like, really, what do you want? I would imagine that the people are going to say at that point in time, we want you to step down, son. And at which point in time, Macron probably should. You know what I mean? He probably should.
Yeah, but again, I mean, step down and then do what?
Exactly. Exactly.
This is the problem with the 42 directives and the Yellow Vest protests is they are just so, where are they going and what direction?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. You get Macron out of power. And then what?
Yeah.
They need to have some sort of unifying vision here.
Yes. And they don't. And I think a lot of that has to do with, excuse me, dear listener. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are united in this protest from the ideological left and the ideological right? So outside of this protest, there are not a lot of things they agree upon, I have nothing to say to that. You're 100% correct, man. And you argued the case, I would say probably 3 or 4 episodes back, very cogently and smartly, that, what is the deal here? Are they just trying to get rid of this dictator just so that they can enslave themselves to another dictator? Like, what's going on here? Really? What do these people want? Yeah.
It's interesting. It's very similar in many ways to Brexit.
It's sure like is.
They want to Brexit from EU and then just be their own dictator.
Yes.
Congratulations, you just substituted one for the other. It smacks of the same thing, in my opinion.
I would agree. And, that's a very sharp, a very smart parallel that you draw there, because the other problem with Brexit is that, okay, yes, there was an election. 52% of the people voted in the UK that they wanted to get out of the EU, but they had no plan. They had no means of doing that. You know what I mean? They had no idea what they were going to do after they left the EU. So what you voted on essentially was a black hole, a vacuum. And that's why all of these negotiations continue to this day regarding Brexit. And there really still is not a plan other than no. There is no yes path forward for Brexit yet. And I think that the Yellow Jackets kind of need to consider this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there is one tactic, Luke, that I find really interesting that kind of broke, I would say, Thursday night, maybe. There were some videos that came out on YouTube and all over the place. I'm reading right now from a France24.com article. Protesters called for the first wave of cash withdrawals to start at 7 p.m. local time on Friday ahead of nationwide demonstrations planned on Saturday. Quote, "We're going to frighten the state with legal means without resorting to violence. We know that it isn't the government that's in charge, but the banks. If the banks are weakened, the state is also weakened," a protester identified as Taz San said in a video posted on YouTube on January 7th. The goal is to maintain pressure on the government to heed Yellow Vest protesters' demands, in particular the right to propose and vote on new laws by hitting them where it hurts, the economy. Ooh. dear listener, I mean, you start threatening banks, you're talking big boy shoes right here. This is serious stuff. You're talking about orchestrating bank runs, right? This is something that, Luke, this would affect you. If they pulled off a successful bank run, you would feel it in Germany the very next day. All of the EU would. All of the EU.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, but you had an update on that. I think you may have sent me a screen cap, but it didn't come through. But we cannot confirm this, dear listener, but what Luke heard just a little bit ago is that they had closed down banks. This is exactly what I predicted they would do. Either close the banks, shut down the ATMs so that people could not withdraw money, or they would impose capital controls to the tune of, like, you can only withdraw, say, 100 euros at a time. Well, we have heard that they shut down the banks to stop this bank run. Cannot confirm it from a real source yet. Unless, Luke, have you found confirmation somewhere yet?
No, just a screen grab with no source.
Okay. I looked too, and I haven't found anything. I mean, again, the Yellow Vest information in the mainstream media it's hard to come by today. You know what I mean? It's pretty hard to come by. So, yeah, see what happens.
Yeah, the media likes to make all this so convoluted and difficult to understand. Mm-hmm. And sort of opacify reality such that you think they're reporting on it, but you don't really know. And so it's really hard. It's, a lot of times you're just stuck in this position of just taking a retroactive look at what ended up happening later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah, including what happened to the boxer who did, dear listener, turn himself in. His oh man, I've got it in some article here, but I can't find it at the moment. The boxer to whom we were referring earlier, he turned himself into police. They have him cooling his heels in jail. We probably won't hear from his like for quite some time. I'm sorry to say, he's probably gone for a while, dear listener. So yeah, Anyways, I really don't have too much else on the Yellow Vests, Luke, other than, Godspeed, protesters. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and you're on the right track with this bank run idea. You want to make a statement? That's the way to do it, right there. That's the way to do it. So,
yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm. And this is peaceful, and it's not destruction of property. It's just taking your money out of the bank. Taking it out of the banking system and investing it or hiding it under the mattress or whatever it is you want to do with your money because it's yours, Yeah. There was a lot of pushback from the government in this same article that I'm reading from right now. The French banks remain unfazed by the proposal as the amount necessary to have negative impact exceeds the daily limits many banks in France allow clients to withdraw from ATMs. There is little chance it would work, France 24's business editor Christophe Dansette explained. The amount of money French people have deposited in banks is estimated at 1.5 trillion euros, according to the Bank of France. Of this amount, 390 billion is currently available. Every French person would therefore have to withdraw 5,800 euros. This is very difficult, if not impossible, considering that cash withdrawals from ATMs are limited. This is a fair point, but nonetheless, what's really interesting here, dear listener, is that they have estimated on deposit in French banks 1.5 trillion euro. What is available is 390 billion euro. See how much less that is? 390 billion, way less than 1.5 trillion. This is because of the central banking system, which Luke and I have wanted to cover for so long, but just never can get to it, and a concept called fractional reserve banking, where a bank is only required to keep so much of its balance sheet in physical cash and still keep the doors open. It's kind of a messed up system, really. I mean, like, why don't they have all of their deposits on hand in case a bank run does happen so that they can give everybody their money? Fractional reserve banking, we'll get to this some other time. Today is not the day. So, yeah. So what you think, Luke? Bank run? We bank run now?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know if they'll pull it off. I think that the French government will do whatever they need to do to make sure this doesn't happen. So I'll be really surprised if they actually pull this off, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
I sort of like the chaos. I enjoy the chaos sometimes. And,
it is kind of comfy.
yeah, I know. But I mean, I'll just say this. I'm glad I have my gold money account.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah. And dear listener, Luke, that's another fine point. Dear listener, you might want to start thinking about some things right now because most of our listeners are here in the United States, but we do have listeners all over the globe on every continent except Antarctica at this moment, as far as I know, literally every continent. So you might want to think about.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. You might want to think about these things in terms of preparedness, right? You might want to start doing some things like maybe buy some gold and silver, maybe buy some, dried food, buy a water supply of some type. You might want to start making plans in case there is some type of a bank run because, dear listener, in the United States, we will feel this as well. If they actually pull off this bank run in France, we're going to feel it the very next day. Believe that. So start thinking about kind of covering your bases and preparing a little bit, dear listener. I'm not talking about, get your AR-15 and all your blades together and get ready to head up into the hills. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. I'm saying get ready for financial difficulties that would be spurred by something like a bank run. Luke's making plans. He's got his gold money account. Those things are God tier. This is something you should look into, dear listener. When did we cover that, Luke? I think that was HSP number 1 when we covered the gold money.
Something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go back and listen to what we had to say about it, dear listener. It's solid money is what it is. It is gold-backed depositories. And it's good stuff. Luke's prepared. Luke's not going to lose all his money. You should start thinking about the same type of thing, dear listener. Kind of think a little bit about what's going on in this crazy world, man. So, yeah. So you did finally get approved for your gold money account. I'm glad to hear that. You'd never updated me on that. Congratulations, bro.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dude, all I have to do is just fund it. Just put some money in there.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Which I'll start by buying gold. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, I got nothing else on Yellow Jackets, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm done with
All right.
Yellow Jackets.
All right.
I mean, we've covered this so exhaustively. Everybody has. There's just nothing really new. There's just nothing else to say about it. We've already said everything we're going to say. If you're not happy with the coverage on this, dear listener, I think the first episode we started covering it on was like 15, like
something
7
like
episodes ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wondering why we're not going super into depth about this, it's just because we've already talked about it ad nauseum.
Indeed.
So just go back and listen to it. I think, it was like 15 or 16, 17, something around there. Just go to our website, zero-gravity-media.com, and go through the Hardly Strictly Politics episode. You'll find it in there.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We really get into the philosophy of the whole movement as well, dear listener. I mean, I think we did a pretty good job of covering it. And Luke raises a fine point here. Like, the big drop for this week, the way things changed this week was the threats of arrests, this proposed law threatening free speech and freedom, and the bank run. Outside of that, like it's kind of just like it was last week, except, Luke, I would say that it kind of seemed to simmer down over the holidays. I would say it's in escalation mode again at this point. I would say a lot of people are really getting active in this. So,
Yeah. It's definitely interesting for sure.
Yeah. So we'll stay on it, dear listener. So we wall now, Luke. We wall.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So basic gestalt, dear listener, is this. There was a lot of business that went on this week regarding the wall, the government shutdown, immigration. Okay. This really started on Tuesday, where President Trump gave remarks on national television. These cucks in TV actually considered not covering his speech. The press office went to the networks and asked for 8 minutes of airtime at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and they actually considered saying no to the president. This is despicable, absolutely despicable. Okay, now
they need to come to us. We'll put them on HSP.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll give them all the airtime they want.
Mr. President, anytime. Yes, come Friday night comfy post. Come when we record on Saturdays. Anytime, Mr. President.
I think Trump would be really good on the Friday night comfy post.
I think he would too, man. I think he would too. So
I'll cozied up there in the Oval Office with baby Pepe in his arm.
in his Snuggie.
Yeah.
I think he'd have a great time too. I mean, we've been kind of halfway expecting him to drop by, Luke, but he hasn't made it yet. He's busy. He's busy. Friday nights are tough, so. Well, anyway, so the networks did finally capitulate to Trump's request to cover his remarks on immigration and the wall on Tuesday night with one caveat. They had to be allowed to let Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer make a rebuttal after the fact.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
So did they? Did they do a rebuttal?
Yes. Yes, they did.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Did you not see the memes that came out with Chuck and Nancy as like the American Gothic painting? The old man with the pitchfork and the barn in the background and his wife. And
wait, was this the one? Was this the one? Yeah, this was the one where they're standing next to each other behind the podium.
Yes,
in front of the flags. Like blank stares on their face.
Yes.
And they just look so like they literally just wandered out of the old folks' home and they're senile and wondering where they are.
Indeed, sir. That was what it looked like. It looked like that to me too.
I mean, Nancy Pelosi somehow manages to just maintain a perpetual state of just looking like that all the time anywhere she is. But Chuck Schumer, I think some of that bled off onto Chuck Schumer as well, because they just have this just dead behind the eyes staring off into the dude. It's like kind of a movie, man. What's that? Oh, dude, they look like Garth when Wayne's not there, and then they put Garth on TV.
Absolutely,
and he's just staring into the camera. That's what he looks like, man.
Indeed, sir. Yeah. It was a pretty poor showing.
I'm gonna meme that and put it up on poll.
Absolutely, do it, man. That's fantastic. The lads will love it, and. But yeah, man, all these memes dropped. Like Chuck and Nancy hadn't even been off the podium for 15 minutes, and already the American Gothic meme was all over Twitter. 15 minutes later, and and dear listener, I'll be honest with you. A couple things to say about this. I got a text from a very dear listener the next morning after the whole Chuck and Nancy thing, and she was like, "This is the most evil." This is the face of evil. This is the most evil thing I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, it really does look pretty evil. Both of them did, crazy evil, and no wonder they got memed out so quickly, because it was a really poor showing. But I'll be honest with you, dear listener. I thought the president gave a good speech. I thought he did pretty good. This really isn't his medium. He's kind of more of an off-the-cuff, impromptu type speaker, but he did what he needed to do. He sounded very presidential. He really made the case. My problem with it is I just didn't think that he rolled hard enough, right? And I also think that he, looking back on it, should have declared the state of emergency right then on national television and started building the wall on Wednesday. Now, because of the way things have gone this week, we're kind of not in a position, I think, where the president should declare a state of emergency.
Yeah, this is why I didn't watch it, was because I just saw online, everybody was just like, wow, that was a huge nothing burger.
Yeah.
Because it was just everywhere. It was all these live feeds on YouTube queued up, ready to go. And it's oh my God, Trump's going to declare national emergency, and then this and that. And then I jump on and everyone's like, oh, that was a nothing burger. He's not even talking about anything, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I'm not even going to waste my time watching it then.
Yeah. Understandably. I watched it. I was actually over at my folks' house. I watched it, and then we watched the Chuck and Nancy rebuttal to the wailing and screeching of my mother, who did not want to suffer through it. But I was like, I got to see this, Mom. I got to see it. I'm sorry. We're going to have to talk about this. But I found it rather flat. It was disappointing. My parents also kind of found the president rather flat. But there was one remark that he made that I thought was God-tier genius, and I'm going to play it for you right now. It's been played by everybody. Limbaugh played it this week. Everybody on Fox News played it, but we got to play it here at HSP too, because it was just so beautifully said.
Some have suggested a barrier is immoral. Then why do wealthy politicians build walls, fences, and gates around their homes? They don't build walls because they hate the people on the outside, but because they love the people on the inside. The only thing that is immoral is the politicians to do nothing and continue to allow more innocent people to be so horribly victimized.
Very good stuff. Made a moral argument right there, Luke, like we were talking about last night on Friday Night Comfy Post, and like we were talking about just before the show. He made a moral argument for the wall, you know? Now, yeah. Chuck and Nancy did counter with the immoral argument, you know, but I really kind of think if you're going to take it down point by point in terms of rhetoric, the president did better. It was a very beautiful remark.
Well, what did Chuck and Nancy say in response to that?
Oh, pretty much just their kind of boilerplate stuff. It's immoral, it's ineffective, it's not going to work. What we need is drones and surveillance and more border patrol and more. We don't need a wall because the wall won't work. Just kind of that same droning on crap.
But see, this is why Trump in this narrow context is brilliant. Because he is forcing them to play a hand. That is what he's doing right now.
Yes, sir.
So what's going on is Trump is making moral arguments, right? Which is not something he ever does, really. I mean, This is out of character for him, to put it mildly. And so he's making a moral argument for something. Now, the counter-moral argument to this is it's immoral to have a border as such. That's why we don't want a wall, because we do not believe in the concepts of borders, that borders as such are immoral. It's our moral responsibility to help those less fortunate than us. And in this case, those people are Mexicans, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians. I don't even know how to, whatever. You know, and it's our moral responsibility to help them by allowing them into our country.
Yes.
And what Trump is doing is he's forcing them to do one of two things. He's forcing them to either play their hand and admit that they do not believe in borders as such. And if they don't do that, then they are, and that's a lose. And he knows this is a losing hand for them. He knows that if they go there, that's a losing hand. That it's just the American people are not going to go for that. And so what they are stuck doing is this constant little pragmatism, which is we don't want a wall because a wall's not going to work. Now, the reason they don't want a wall is because they deliberately want our border to be penetrable. That's why they don't want a wall, because they know a wall. They don't want a wall precisely because they know it will work. That's the real reason why they don't want a wall.
Exactly,
because it will work, and they want people to be able to cross our border illegally. So when they say, "Oh, we don't want to, we need drones and this," that's total nonsense. The reason they don't want a wall is precisely because they know that. I mean, if they really honestly believe that a wall didn't work, then they would allow this to go through, and then at the end of Trump's presidency, see how much of an imbecile he is. He spent $5 billion on this thing. We told him it wasn't going to work. He spent $5 billion on it, which is nothing. You know, this isn't. We're not throwing all of our eggs in one basket here with this. I mean, this is 0.1% of the budget. So it's not like we can't afford it. So they can't play that hand. You know, they could say, you know what, we'll let this go through. And then you're going to look like an idiot because it's not going to work. That's not what is going on here. What is going on is they know it will work and they don't want it. So therefore they don't want it. And they want our border to be penetrable, but Trump knows that that's a losing hand. So he is just, with this entire government shutdown, is Trump saying, here's my cards. All my cards are on the table. Let's see what hand you're playing right now. And they aren't, by offering these pragmatic arguments about we won drones and this and that, this is them not playing their hand. They're not playing their hand because they know they can't, because they know it's a losing hand.
Well said, brother. I could not agree more. I could not agree in the slightest bit more. That's perfectly said. In fact, to your point, Jim Jordan was on Lou Dobbs last night, and he kind of agrees with you. Here's what he had to say. This is going to be about a 60-second clip, dear listener, so please stick with us.
Let's start with, first of all, the president's decision not to declare a national emergency. Give Pelosi and Schumer one more opportunity, it sounds like that, another opportunity at least, to say, no, they're not going to do anything. Your thoughts?
Well, we should do it legislatively. We should appropriate the dollars, build the border security wall. But if that can't get done and the president declares emergency, he's exactly right. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure out. Look at what this caravan phenomena over the last several months. Everybody knows, in spite of what the mainstream press may say, everybody knows this is a crisis, this is an emergency, and we need a border security wall. Democrats know it, Republicans know it, independents know it. The only ones who don't get it are Democrats in Washington, D.C., and that's the problem.
Well, Democrats and a handful of rhino Republicans who have been voting that way and did so in the House from 8 to 12 at various points.
Yeah. But Lou, remember, that's just a handful. But remember what's happening on the Democrat side. Mm-hmm. There are a number of new Democrats in very Republican-leaning districts where they just barely won. How about the Democrat in the Oklahoma City district? How about Joe Cunningham, the Democrat in Mark Sanford's old district in South Carolina? Right. You don't think South Carolina voters and Oklahoma City voters?
How about the congressman from Minnesota? I mean,
yes, exactly.
On agriculture. But that's
so I think they're feeling the heat more so than any Republicans.
How many of them?
So that Luke kind of talked over him a little bit there at the end, dear listener. But what Jim Jordan said is, I think the Democrats are feeling the heat a lot more than Republicans. I would tend to agree. And Jim Jordan agrees with Luke on this entirely. I think the Democrats are slowly losing this argument. What would you say about that, Luke? I think they're losing, man.
Yeah, they are. And another thing that I mean, if they're feeling the heat, well, Trump's about to pour gasoline on the fire, because this national emergency, what people know implicitly about the national emergency is that the national emergency is not an emergency about the border. That's not, people know that. You know, all these idiots on the left that are like, the border is not a national emergency. What they don't get, and I think what a lot of people on the right and what most people don't explicitly get, but they implicitly get, is that this national emergency isn't about the border. The national emergency is about politicians abdicating their responsibility, about not taking responsibility for securing the country.
That is so smart. That is so well said.
They know implicitly that this national emergency, what the emergency is, politicians not doing their job. That's the emergency. Mm-hmm. People implicitly know this. This is why it's a winning strategy for Trump to declare this national emergency. People probably want to grit their teeth and go, you know, that's maybe a little step too far, Trump. You need to cool it. Like, I would say no. I mean, declare a national emergency on the border, but people know that it's not the border. That's the emergency. The emergency is politicians not doing their job.
Indeed,
and
sir.
I think people will know that.
Yes, indeed. Very, very well said, man. I really hadn't thought of it that way, but that's 100% true. And it is an emergency, man, because, excuse me, dear listener, we're still getting people killed by drunk drivers. We're still getting people shot by illegal aliens, right? You hear all this rhetoric about, from Geraldo Rivera, nonetheless, this week on Hannity's show. He was like, native-born citizens commit more crimes than illegal immigrants in much higher proportions. Well, yeah, okay, maybe that's true, Geraldo, except for the fact that these illegal aliens shouldn't even be here in the first place. Every single one of them has committed a crime just by being here and continues to commit a crime by being here. These people would still be alive right now. Ronil Singh would still be alive right now if the politicians would do their damn job and secure our country, like Luke is saying. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah, I mean, you can't. Yeah, that's a total equivocation of the matter,
isn't it?
It's like people when they use this argument of like, oh, well, if we just like legalize drugs, then like drug-related crimes would be zero. It's like, oh, no shit, Sherlock. Thanks for the critical analysis there. Excuse my French, dear listener, but like, it's the same sort of thing. You know, when they're like, oh, well, they use these statistics. There's another one that I've heard, which is that legal immigrants have a lower rate of crime than natural-born citizens.
Yes, sir. Okay,
well, like, while that's true, and while Geraldo's may be true as well, I mean, there's always, it's about the principle of the matter, of the fact that they shouldn't have even been here in the first place. So, like, you know, if you are going to do this sort of let's weigh our options approach here, I mean, what you're weighing is the productivity of all the illegal immigrants versus the deaths and crimes that come with it. I mean, that would be the proper understanding of Geraldo's argument, but the job of the government is not to weigh those options. The job of the government is to protect people from the initiation of force.
That's
and the only
right,
way
man.
to do that is to know who's coming in our country. I mean, if an immigrant wants to come to our country and a company wants to bring them there and they have a place to go and a place to live and they've got all the stuff lined up and the government says, okay, who's your name? Okay, what's your name? Okay, we got your... All right, you don't have any communicable diseases. Okay, cool. Criminal background check. All right, cool. You're good to go. You can come in the country and work for this company. And then they go there and they commit a crime. Well, like, we know who that person is. We can throw him in jail and kick him out of the country. No problem at all. You know, so like, I don't have a problem. You know, I think companies should have a right to bring the people that they need into the country to work for them. But like, we need to know who those people are. There needs to be some controls in place, and they need to do it in a legal, as Trump always says, legally. You know, so, I mean, it's not this dichotomy where it's like, look, you know, illegal immigration is okay because, like, people who are already here are even worse. I mean, if that's your defense, if that's all you have, I almost feel bad. Like, if that's all you have, if that's all you've got, then I almost feel bad. Even having this argument, you know?
Yeah, indeed, sir. Well, you know, there are a lot of tangential stories that spun off of this wall thing, and this is one I was going to kind of save till the end, but since you just mentioned this, I think this is a perfect time to say it. It looks like Trump is going to cuck on H-1B visas. I read from a Breitbart piece that goes thus: President Trump says he plans to offer foreign workers imported to the United States by Silicon Valley tech conglomerates and multinational corporations every year a, quote, potential path to citizenship to encourage, quote, highly skilled migration. Every year, more than 100 foreign workers are brought to the U.S. on the H-1B visa program and allowed to stay for up to 6 years. There are about 650,000 H-1B visa holders in the United States at any given moment. Americans are often laid off in the process and forced to train their foreign replacements, as highlighted by Breitbart News. More than 85,000 Americans a year potentially lose their jobs to foreign labor through the H-1B visa program. In a tweet Friday morning, Trump reversed course on his Buy American, Hire American executive order, saying he wants to offer a path to U.S. citizenship to the hundreds of thousands of foreign workers living in the country on the H-1B visa. Quote, H-1B, this is the tweet, H-1B holders in the United States can rest assured that changes are soon coming, which will bring both simplicity and certainty to your stay, including a potential path to citizenship. We want to encourage talented and highly skilled people to pursue career options in the United States. Okay. Now, Luke and I happen to disagree about things like the H-1B visa program. We agree about just about everything, but there are a couple of nuances to our own opinions on things where we don't agree. Luke is probably more slightly inclined in favor of the H-1B visa program, if I may prevail to assume, and I am kind of more slightly against the H-1B visa program because I've been personally affected by it. Quite frankly, that's why it affected me. Now, there are a lot of ways to look at this. Okay, the first thing is that, okay, where we're at right now because of this wall conversation, like Luke so brilliantly detailed just a moment ago, is that the left is going to push back on every single thing that Trump says, period, just because Trump said it, right? He literally is saying, you know, the same types of rhetoric, the same sentences that Chuck Schumer has said in the past, Nancy Pelosi has said in the past, the Prince Obama himself has said in the past, but because Trump says exactly what they say. Oh my God, he's such a racist. He's such a tyrant. He's the worst thing. Russia. You know, this kind of crap that comes from the media. Well, now, did Trump just bait the media? Is he going to force them to argue against H-1B holders because he now supports H-1B visa holders and path to citizenship for them? We don't know yet. That argument has not been yet made by the mainstream media. So we'll see what happens. I'm hearing a lot of people on the right-wing commentariat saying, oh, look at Trump. This is brilliant. He's keeping the left off of, on their toes, keeping them off balance, blah, 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 blah. That all may be true. The point that I want to make about this tweet is this. Mr. President, no, not right now. Okay, you want to take care of this after we get the wall built? Okay, let's talk about it then. But right now, sir, you are in the fight for your 2020 election, and this is the biggest fight besides the Civil War between the left and the right that we have ever seen in this country. Now is not the time, Mr. President. Mr. President, respectfully, sometimes I really wonder if you understand what's going on. You're so brilliant about some things sometimes, and then every now and then you just shoot yourself in the foot like this. This is not the time in the middle of this border wall discussion to cuck on H-1B visas. Now is not the time. Give it 6 months, right? The media are never going to like you, Mr. President. The people who hate you are going to hate you forever until you are out of office, and still they're going to hate you forever. And Mr. President, I may respectfully suggest when they most sadly, most regretfully lay you low, sir, your grave will be desecrated by these freaks over and over and over again, because that's how badly they hate you. You cannot cuck to them, Mr. President. Not right now. Not right now. And so sorry to get so passionate about it, dear listener, but this is a tactical mistake. This weakens his position on border security all the way around right now. So just my take on it. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, he's setting himself up to get called out.
Exactly.
On the left on this, because most illegal immigration isn't actually at the Mexican border. It's visa overstays.
That's exactly correct.
So,
and they already have called him out on it kind of rudely in press conferences and such. And you know what? They're right. They're 100% correct. You know?
Yeah.
And
I'm
a lot
reading
of these. Go ahead.
I'm reading from a CNBC article about this right now. So Trump's claims about the southern border also fail to emphasize that the majority of illegal immigration occurs when immigrants overstay their temporary visas. During fiscal year 2017, the Department of Homeland Security found that 701,900 immigrants with visas remained in the U.S. past their expected departure date, more than double the 303,916 immigrants apprehended at the border during that same time frame. Now, let's... okay, this is a little bit of equivocation, because they say immigrants apprehended at the border. That number is not the same as total illegal immigration.
That's absolutely true. That's what we know about, essentially,
right,
is what it measures. Yes.
So let me walk that back. I don't know. Maybe that's not 100% true. Maybe, but I mean, still, like, I think it's fair to say that it's definitely more. It's obviously more, because there were people who didn't get caught. But I would be surprised to learn that it was more than 400,000 additional immigrants in that same time frame. So, yeah. So, I mean, at the very least, I would say visa overstays are 50% of the problem in terms of illegal immigration. Now,
I would agree.
I would say probably the upside to that is that the people that are doing their visa overstays are probably, generally speaking, the types of people that we would want, because they had to qualify for a visa in the first place. So those are precisely the kind of people that I would want in the country, is the sort of people who qualified for a visa. So
good point, man. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really bother me too much, but it still stands. The case still stands that Trump's setting himself up to get called out here for contradictions.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. And you know, like I said, it's already happened, Luke. It's been happening all week, and they're right to do it. You know, because this is a kind of a little bit of a logical fallacy here. Now, I don't have any numbers pulled up, dear listener and Luke, so I can't attest to this factually, right? But I do want to let you know that some of these visa overstays do involve H-1B visa holders, and the number is rather dramatic, right? It's not hundreds of thousands, but it's tens of thousands of visa overstays from previous H-1B holders, right? So this kind of, goes right into exactly what Luke is talking about, his argument about visa overstays, and the president just shot himself in the foot at the exact wrong time. Yeah, that's just the fact of the matter, Mr. President. You're doing so well. You've got the people behind you. But if you do something like this right now, you lose everything. You lose your entire base in one tweet. One tweet like this. Stay frosty, Mr. President. Stay frosty. Oh, man, so many other things happened regarding the wall this week, Luke. I want to read real quick from in an op-ed he penned for the New York Times, I believe it was. Yeah, it was. Ramos notes that Trump is not the vice president president to ask for money for a wall. He points out that former presidents George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush built fences and walls along the southern border, while former President Barack Obama maintained the resulting system of roughly 700 miles of physical barriers. So why do we not want Mr. Trump to build this wall? What is different? The difference is that Mr. Trump's wall is a symbol of hate and racism. It also would be completely useless, and it does not address any national emergency. It is about more than just a wall. The wall has become a metaphor to Mr. Trump and his millions of supporters. It represents a divide between us and them. The physical demarcation for those who refuse to accept that in just a few decades, a majority of this country will be people of color. You hear that, dear listener? Jorge Ramos wants you replaced right now. He wants you dead. He wants you gone. Yeah.
Can you? Sorry, like
Should I not read it in parcel tongue?
Yeah. Okay, it's hard. I can't understand it. I have no idea what he just said.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, I mock Jorge Ramos intentionally because he's got this sibilant, horrible voice, and he's an anchor at Univision, dear listener, and he thinks that we give a damn about what he thinks. He's that arrogant. I'll read the paragraph again. It goes thus: in a Wednesday New York Times op-ed, Ramos notes that Trump is not the first president to ask for money for a wall. He points out that former presidents George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush built fences and walls along the southern border, while former President Barack Obama, quote, maintained the resulting system of roughly 700 miles of physical barriers. Quote, so why don't we want Mr. Trump to build his wall? What is different? Ramos asks. The difference is that, quote, the difference is that Mr. Trump's wall is a symbol of hate and racism. It would be completely useless, and it does not address any national emergency. Ramos, who said the United States has a responsibility to, quote, absorb caravan migrants, says the fight against the border wall, quote, is more about more than just a wall. The wall has become a metaphor to Mr. Trump and his millions of supporters, he writes. It represents a divide between us and them, a physical demarcation for those who refuse to accept that in just a few short decades, a majority of the country will be people of color. I could go on and on and on about the rest of the stuff that this cuck says, but, Customs and Immigration, I want you to do your duty right now and get this son of a bitch out of our country. This man who lives on an island in the Florida Keys in his own mansion on an island with, guess what? A wall around it. Yeah, but that wall's not racist. No, not that wall, just this wall, right? You see how he's calling our president's border wall racist, but all these other walls are okay. And not only is it racist, it's ineffective, right? Because he wants you replaced, dear listener. He wants you dead. Native Americans, get out. We people of color now. We taking over now. That literally is what he's arguing. So withdraw his citizenship, withdraw his green card, and just get him the hell out of this country. He doesn't belong here. He's a Mexican national, hostile to this government, hostile to this country. Just go. Go back to Mexico, bro. You like it there better anyway. You vote in their elections as well as ours. Just GTFO. Get out. Get out. So there's another thing that happened this week.
What was he saying about the demarcation? This is can you go back and hit that again?
Yeah. The difference is that Mr. Trump's wall is a symbol of hate and racism. It would be completely useless, and it does not address any national emergency. I will add, except for the fact, dear listener, we do know that there is a horde about double in size of the last horde that's coming up right now that is not being reported in the media, and they're not going to report on it until, surprise, we're at Tijuana jumping over the border wall now. That's coming any day now, dear listener, so get ready for it. The horde cometh. The horde cometh. Going on with the article. Ramos, who said the United States has a responsibility to, quote, absorb caravan migrants, says the fight against the border wall is, quote, about more than just a wall. The wall has become a metaphor to Mr. Trump and his millions of supporters. It represents a divide between us and them, a physical demarcation for those who refuse to accept that in just a few short decades, a majority of the country will be people of color.
Yeah, this is that's particularly I would say that's particularly angering because he's just fueling this racist hatred of Americans. I would say Anglo-Americans, and in turn it's fueling their own racist hatred for and people like him. It's just stirring up this fight. And it's like, then you have people like you and I, Russ. It's like, we're trying to live in a free society. I'm not trying to hate anybody. I'm not trying to be hated either. It's like, I just want to live my life, be free, produce value, be happy, and live a good life, live a prosperous life. And then we've got people like this guy coming along and stirring up all this hatred and making it about race. This is not a physical... What's up?
Yeah, I just absolutely agreed. Yes.
Yeah. Like, this is not a physical demarcation between a people and then another people who refuse to accept the fact that they aren't going to be those people anymore. That's not what this is about. This is a physical demarcation from our politics and Mexico's politics.
That's it, man.
I don't want Mexico's politics. Nobody wants Mexico's politics. There is a reason why they are leaving Mexico. It is because of their ideas and their political situation and the fact that they have not adopted what the United States adopted, which is capitalism, which is freedom, which is liberty, which is the Constitution, freedom of speech, rule of law. They have not followed suit. They have been a complete and total failure for more than 100 years. That is the demarcation. The demarcation is between success and failure. That's the demarcation. This isn't about race.
Such a good
The
point.
demarcation is the fact that we are successful and you are failure. And we don't want to be a part of failure. We want to be a part of success. And guess what? All these other people want to be a part of success too. Why don't you stop failing? That would be a good starting point. Why doesn't the Mexico political system stop failing their people?
Oh, indeed, sir. Well said. Well said. Yes. Luke and I have always contended that, yes, this wall is a symbol. Upon this, we do agree with Jorge Ramos. We do agree. It is a symbol, but it's not a symbol of us and them, a demarcation between people of color and people with the white Anglo citizen who will soon be replaced. It is not this. No. Luke nailed it and knocked it out of the park. It is... You can't come here and bring your third world politics with you. That's what it is. That's what it is. It does, in addition to being a symbol, it does have the added advantage of making it pretty hard to get over here willy-nilly. I mean, you're going to have to carry a pretty tall ladder, and you're not going to be able to just, ride with a coyote who's going to sexually assault you on the way up here. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a lot more difficult just by the wall being in place. So, yes, it is a symbol. But it is also a very effective deterrent,
Yeah.
And
this is, I would say people like Jorge Ramos, I mean, let's just call them what they are. They are just pro-failure. They are pro-poverty, pro-failure, pro-death, pro-crime. They aren't trying to fix Mexico. They are they are trying to, for whatever, I don't know what his individual I mean, I know what the motive is in the left in general, but his individual motive, I'm not sure what it is, considering he is a Mexican national. I can only surmise that it has something to do with racist totalitarianism, given his commentary. But, or I should say racial totalitarianism. So I can only surmise it has something to do with that. But in as much as he is not about fixing Mexico, makes him an evil human being.
Oh, yes.
It makes him a truly evil human being, that he doesn't care about poverty in Mexico. He cares about Donald Trump building a wall. Get your priorities in line, dude.
Straight up, Luke. Straight up, man. Well said. Well said. And, meanwhile, GTFO out of the United States as well. If you kindly would, just get out of here.
Yeah.
He is anti-America, Luke. He is anti-life. He is pro-death. He is anti-America. He is pro-communism, right? Like, dear listener, this man is the exact embodiment of what Luke and I oppose and why we began this show. It is because of cucks like this that want you literally dead. He just said it in his piece. He wants you dead, dear listener. He wants you replaced and gone. And, oh my God, man. Yeah. Meanwhile, he lives comfortably on an island behind his own wall. I mean, you can't make this up, man. You can't make it up, So, In America, of course. You know, I mean, I'm sure he's rich enough. I'm sure he probably does have a house in Mexico somewhere. But hell, you know what? Maybe not. He probably actually doesn't have a house in Mexico. He just straight up bailed to come over here and spread the Mexican disease to the United States. That's why he's here. You know, the Mexican political disease to the United States.
Dude, he's one of these like Mexican sort of high rollers that's basically white, it looks like.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
how
is.
ironic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Yeah. People of color, indeed, sir.
Dude, this
indeed.
This guy looks straight off the Santa Maria. What is it? The Santa Maria. Who did the
yeah, I think it is
Santa
Santa
Maria?
Maria. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, this guy
yeah.
looks like he stepped straight off the Santa Maria.
Yeah,
you know?
Indeed, sir. So,
oh, he is a Mexican-born American journalist, is what his Wikipedia says.
oh, is that right? A Mexican-born American journalist? Yeah, you bet, bro. Yeah, you bet. Working for Univision, speaking in Spanish every day, and he literally speaks like this, dear listener. That's the way he speaks. You know what I mean? And yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh man. So like Luke, you know what, Jorge Ramos, I'll tell you what. How about you come on to HSP sometime, bro? Come be our guest, right? Let Luke and I just excoriate you, sir. This is a serious invitation. Anytime, anywhere, bring it. Bring it to HSP. Let's have a little chat.
I just found out why he hates the world.
Oh, what is it?
He attended Catholic schools where he states he was abused by priests.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I mean, if that's true, if big, you know, I'm sorry that happened to you, bro. You know, that, you know, maybe not. Not sure. I mean, just on principle, Luke, first and foremost, I don't believe anything that comes out of Jorge Ramos's mouth. So I pretty much have no compassion. The man is a liar. You know what I mean? I doubt that it's even true. It's a virtue signal against the Catholic Church to garner sympathy. You know what I mean? So, but if it is true, it would explain the vitriol of this disgusting human being. You know what I mean? It certainly would explain it. So, yeah.
Yeah, this guy is just...
He's a mess, dude. He's an absolute mess. Everybody at Univision is an absolute mess. An
he's
ideological
a
mess.
Human being.
Yes, sir. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Well, speaking
his daughter, Paola Ramos. She worked for Hill Dog's 2016 presidential campaign.
Oh, of course she did.
That makes me feel so good inside, dude.
Me too, man.
Oh man, I feel so much better now. All right, I needed that, you know. I needed that after that thorough triggering. I needed to know. I needed a white. I was looking for that one little white pill. I was on the hunt, you know, and I found it.
Oh man, indeed. I gotta wipe my eyes, man. You made me cry. That's pretty funny. I'm pretty white pilled about that too, man. I actually am. So. Oh man. So speaking of evil human beings, man, our old buddy Acosta was back at it this week. I've got a clip from Tucker. You want to hear this real quick? This is pretty hilarious, man. You ready for this?
Yeah.
That possibility was permanently destroyed today by a fact-seeking missile of truth launched by one of our country's premier cable news outlets. In a single devastating act of journalism, CNN killed the wall. Took their biggest guns to do it. The network dispatched its chief White House correspondent / moral philosopher / Renaissance poet, Jim Acosta, to the U.S.-Mexico border, specifically to the town of McAllen, Texas. Once on the ground in McAllen, Acosta wasted no time in proving once and for all that walls don't work. Watch the stand-up that changed history.
Here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. No sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
You see that? Take that, you nativist bigot freaks, you creepy wall obsessives. Jim Acosta just spanked you. He was there, not in some cushy air-conditioned studio in Washington with the rest of the talking heads. but in the field, on the scene, doing the kind of hard-boiled shoe leather reporting that has made Jim Acosta a household name. Acosta went right to the wall itself, the very wall he finds immoral and has often argued against at press conferences. And what Jim Acosta found there will shock you. Not a single illegal alien was anywhere near that wall. There was no tent city. There were no predatory gang members or coyotes. MS-13 not there. There was no sad, suffering caravan. Everything was just fine. Or as Jim Acosta so memorably put it, the area around that steel barrier was pretty tranquil. See? That's what you get when you build walls, America. Tranquility. And that's the last thing we need more of in this country. More peaceful, bucolic scenes like that. Wait, that can't really have been CNN's point, could it? Now,
Destroyed.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw the poll threads. Oh
yeah, dude, I did. I saw. It's like yeah, CNN proves walls work or something. It's just, you know, what it reminds me of is these when weather stations are covering hurricanes and they're like, oh my God, the wind is blowing, it's flooding, and she's like sitting in a canoe, and then there's like somebody like, you know, calmly just sort of like carrying a shovel, walking around in the background,
totally,
in like ankle deep water, you know.
Indeed, man. Indeed. I saw a good one of that from the Florida hurricanes, which did end up to be a really devastating hurricane. But there was, I think it was CNN, in fact, BTFO'd just by its own camera, you know? I mean, CNN has a habit. Yeah.
This is why you don't lie, dear listener. This is a good lesson, and don't lie, right? Because there is, what is a lie? Like, what is truth and what is a lie? Truth is ideas or things that you say that correspond accurately with reality. A lie is ideas or things that you say that don't correspond accurately with reality. Lying creates a liability for you if you get found out. And that is exactly what happened here. They created a liability by lying, and then it just so happened that it blew up in their face. If you tell the truth, you don't have to worry about these things. You just go tell the truth all the time. You don't need to run around worrying about what you said and who you said it to and who they told that to and this and that and this and that. Just tell the truth. And then you don't have to worry about anything. Life's easy. And CNN hasn't figured this out yet.
Yes. After all these years, man. I mean, when did they start? 1980, I believe it was, maybe 81.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're not. They're not reporting the news. They're just a propaganda machine.
That's exactly correct, sir. Yes, they are. I mean, they all are, man, and including Fox News, man. I've got plenty of bones to pick with Fox News. It's not unique just to the MSM, you know, MSNBC and CNN and NPC and CBS and all them. You know, it's not unique to them. I mean, Fox is kind of contaminated as well. So yeah. No offense to Fox whatsoever, because I do watch them on a daily basis. But like, man, they've got some people on there that got to go, man. I'm not going to say who they are, but they got to go. So yeah. So anyway, man, go ahead.
I have one piece of dear listener feedback, and I'm going to throw it in right here. Actually, I have a couple, but I'm going to throw this one in here because it's relevant. So okay. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to pose this to you, Russ, because I've already read it and thought about it.
All right.
Plot twist. Haven't finished your latest episode yet, so y'all might have already suggested this, but remember back at midterms when I said I felt like Trump lost the House but retained the Senate on purpose? Doubling down on that thought right now. He didn't have enough support for the wall when Republicans held both. Didn't happen for 2 years. So while campaigning for midterms, he had already decided to shut the government down and wanted the left in control and needed the left to be in control of one to do so, until the libs had to cuck and bend the knee in full national spotlight and build an enormous structure in his honor at the border, exposing their ass not only in the ways y'all have talked about, but showing their impotence to their own base rolling into 2020.
Oof. So intelligent, dear listener. Oh my God. We could do a whole show about that. Thank you for that God tier feedback. So intelligent. I have wondered things like that. I mean, Luke, so we like we always say, we 4D chess now?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Yeah, I think this is definitely some sort of multi-dimensional chess.
Yeah. Dear listener, I would not be surprised if that was in fact the truth. Luke and I entirely see your argument, dear listener, 100%. Luke and I we made the conscious decision to take this from the angle that it was bad to lose the House, not good to lose the House. That's why we covered it the way that we did. We made a decision about how we were going to make our case. And we stuck to our 22 long rifle guns after we made that case. But dear listener, I think you've got a mighty fine point there. And I will also say, dear listener, that Q says exactly verbatim what you just said, that the Senate was the priority. The Senate was the target, that the House was intentionally let go to the Blues, to the Dems. It was intentionally let go because they would end up hanging their own selves out to dry with all of this wall hysteria and eventually end up taking ownership for the government shutdown. So, dear listener, there are other people who are thinking exactly what you're thinking. I'm blown away, Luke. Man, I'm just blown away. First of all, our dear listeners are so smart, dude. They give us the greatest feedback in the world, and that rocked my world, man. I mean, tell me your thoughts, man.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Well, I'll echo everything that you just said. Mm-hmm. My response to it is just who knows with Trump. It's like, who knows? Sometimes I think that he's just sort of a bull in a china shop and then and doesn't really know what he's doing. And he's just kind of getting in there and shaking some things up and poking at people. And then sometimes he does things where I'm just like, Jesus, dude, I've totally way underestimated him. So I'm hoping it's the latter, and I'm hoping dear listener is right. But I hesitate to say one way or the other. But it sort of reminds me, this feedback harkens me to like past jobs that I've had where like my boss has made some brilliant move. And I'm trying to tell him like, dude, I think this is a little bit of a bad idea. I think you should reconsider this decision. And then they'll say like, why do you say that? And I'll say, well, and I'll make my case. And he said, okay, well, you aren't looking out into the future far enough. And I'll say, oh, so what do you mean? Because I think you need to think about, you're thinking about 6 months from now. You need to think about 5 years from now or next year, or 2 years from now, whatever the case. And they sort of just zoom out a little bit. And then once you zoom out, you see a lot more context and you go, oh, I see why you're doing this now. And I feel like I just had one of those moments when I read this, not just now, but when I read this, it was like one of those moments where I go, I was zoomed in too far. I needed to zoom out a little bit. Yeah.
Hashtag me too. Yeah. Same thing. Mm-hmm.
Or I think Jordan Peterson, what does he say? Like low resolution or something like this. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Dan Bongino says the 30,000 foot view rather than being on the ground. Take the 30,000 foot view. A lot of people say that. I had a similar thought process to you, Luke. I was the same way about like, man, I've been being a little bit too myopic. Let's widen our gaze a little bit here. Exact same reaction.
Yeah.
I have been exposed to these ideas because I do read Q drops, right, and watch a couple of internet shows about Q just to kind of keep up with it. So I have been exposed to these ideas, but I can tell you something, dear listener, nobody in the world has explained it as eloquently as you just did in that dear listener feedback. So thank you, sir or ma'am. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah.
He actually, or this dear listener actually doesn't go by sir or ma'am. It's their, sort of the in-between. They're on a spectrum. We'll put it that way.
Oh, okay. Cool.
No,
All
I'm
right.
kidding.
Oh man, we're going to get some feedback about that. I'll tell you what, we're going to get some feedback. So,
man, you want to cut to break real quick? Sorry.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. But anyway, wow, dear listener, thank you. I'm blown away. And I echo Luke's sentiments. So, and dear listener, we need to top off a little bit, take a little break here real fast. We've probably got about a little over an hour of content so far. Plenty more to talk about. So just kind of stick here with us for just about 15 minutes of our time, 10 seconds of yours. We'll be back at you before you know it.
All right, dear listener, welcome back to Hardly Strictly Politics, episode number 22. We've got Luke and Russ 22. In the house. We're about to bring segment 2. Russ, what we got going on? What do we have in segment 2?
Well, we got a lot of business going on in segment 2, but there was one thing we neglected to mention in segment 1, so we've got to backtrack just a little bit, if that's okay, if I might prevail upon you for 60 seconds of time to go back and hit one thing about the wall that we missed. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So there is one thing that we forgot to mention, dear listener, and it is this, okay? After Trump addressed the nation on Tuesday night, and then there was the Chuck and Nancy show, which was so meme-worthy, it exploded all over the place within minutes, right? And some of those memes that came out on 4chan were pretty dank, I might say,
Dude,
dank stuff.
I have to stop you there. I saw the picture, but I didn't see it shopped or anything like this, like photoshopped or anything. What were some of the memes?
Oh man, well, some of them were pretty nasty, but the one, the meme seen round the world, covered by Fox News and MSNBC and everybody, was the one of Chuck and Nancy's face photoshopped on top of the American Gothic painting. And that American Gothic painting, Luke, it's that one it's a Southern painting from like the Dust Bowl days, probably immediately right in the early days of the Great Depression, with the old farmer holding the pitchfork and his wife next to him and their house there in the background. Somebody photoshopped Chuck and Nancy's faces onto it.
I just looked it up, dude. I know exactly this picture.
Yeah, it's pretty funny stuff. Yeah. Pretty funny stuff. So,
dude,
yeah.
That is going to be the image I use in the show post that I put on the website.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect, man. Yes, absolutely perfect. It got a lot of traction, man. It was retweeted on Twitter. I can't remember the user who posted it, but it was tweeted like hundreds of thousands of times. Hundreds of thousands. Yeah. So good stuff.
Dude.
Yeah, it is, man.
Dude, here's one the same with Bob Ross painting it.
Oh, really? Oh my God. Fantastic, man. Fantastic. That is just great. Oh, man. I never saw the Bob Ross one, man. That's classic.
Yeah.
But yes, this is going to be one of those memes, the one that you just saw, the American Gothic. That is going to be this is going to make mainstream media cover meme culture in the same way that you and I have covered it since episode number 1, boy. Number 1. Because Luke and I are meme war veterans, dear listener, as we've explained to you before. We're veterans of the great meme wars. All of these people on, mainstream news, they're not veterans of the meme wars, but we are. We're legit, right? We've got service records and awards and patches and decorations to prove it. I mean, Luke and I are both highly decorated in the meme wars, believe it or not. We can't really talk about what it was that we did. We both still have PTSD from the meme war a little bit, unfortunately.
It's possible that one day our service records will be declassified, but
it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and then we can talk openly about our assignments and where we fought, but which comment sections we posted in. But as of right now, orders from High Command have told us that it's still classified. We can't talk about it yet.
It's still classified. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Sorry about that, dear listener. Someday, maybe for episode 100, maybe it won't be classified by that time, but at the time it's sensitive information. So, tracks are still being covered, I assume, by High Command. You know what I mean? There's a lot of intel scrubbing going on right now, dear listener. Even still, 2 years after I got out of the meme war. Well, I mean, you never get out of the meme war, really, do you, Luke? I mean, I still get assignments.
Once you're on the ride, you can't get off.
Yeah, man, you're here forever.
Yeah.
I just saw it.
You saw the meme that I've sent you.
Oh my God, that's so great, man. Oh, it's so good. It's so
Dude,
good.
the funny thing is
man.
about this Chuck and Nancy, and dear listener, I'll tell you what, we'll either put a meme or a still shot of the two of them standing up there on the podium. And if you haven't seen this, it is just so, they're both, obviously it's Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They're standing up at this podium and it's like they're vying for who's really going to be the one standing in front of the podium. They're standing like super uncomfortably close and, like overlapping, and they've got these just weird looks on their face. It's just so weird and creepy. And, I mean, it was just asking to get memed.
Yes, it was. And it didn't take long, dear listener. I'm not kidding. Like 15 minutes after they were off that podium, this stuff started hitting Twitter. I mean, I'm not even kidding.
I mean, man, 2019 is getting off, dude. We haven't. Okay, let's think about this for a moment, Russ. Like how meme-worthy 2019 has already become.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
We've got ginger snaps. We've got this, and like we still have the entire Democratic presidential campaign ahead of us.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, we've got Elizabeth Warren stands with a beer.
Yeah, stands with a beer.
That.
Yeah.
We've got Macho Ma'am already happened this year. Yeah, all kinds of stuff, dear listener. Oh man, it's just crazy. And it's been one of these weeks, dear listener. Like, I mean, I should say right now, Luke and I have lots of bottom of the stack stuff because we just had to curate and go through things. I mean, don't think Luke and I aren't on top of our business because we don't talk about something this week. But there's just so much going on, you know what I mean? So much. And it is, as you see right now, dear listener, very meme-worthy. Very meme-worthy.
Yeah.
So,
but one thing we won't pass up on is good memes. I mean, those trump
never.
everything.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely never. Yes. You know, we've kind of come above ground a little bit, dear listener. You know, we can't operate in the shadows like we used to. I mean, we're out here in the public space right now, and but nonetheless, you know, we appreciate good meme warfare when we see it, and we will certainly bring it to your attention without question. So,
indeed, sir. All right, man. Let's get to this.
Yeah. All right. So what happened? You know, the memes exploded, dear listener. Okay. You know, like we said, within minutes. And so Trump held a meeting in the Situation Room at the White House the next day. Okay. With Chuck and Nancy. Mike Pence was there. There were, you know, various assorted Republicans and Democrats, two separate accounts of what exactly happened in that meeting. But the facts seem to track pretty well. You know what? Let's just have Chuck Schumer explain it. Let's just listen to Chuck. This is what happened, dear listener. Here it goes.
The president just got up and walked out. He asked Speaker Pelosi, "Will you agree to my wall?" She said no. And he just got up and said, "Then we have nothing to discuss," and he just walked out. Again, we saw a temper tantrum because he couldn't get his way, and he just walked out of the meeting. I asked him to open up the government, that tomorrow so many people will have trouble paying their mortgages, paying their bills, dealing with situations when they don't get paid. And I said, just why won't you do that? We'll continue to discuss. We're willing to discuss anything. And he said,
indeed,
if I open up the government, you won't do what I want. That's cruel.
Oh, shut up. So that's it, dear listener, right there. So like Chuck and Nancy, the God Emperor walks in. He's like, "What? How much money are you giving me for the wall? You gonna build my wall?" No. Bye-bye. Trump's specific tweet read thus: "Just left a meeting with Chuck and Nancy, a total waste of time. I asked what is going to happen in 30 days if I quickly open things up. Are you going to approve border security, which includes a wall or a steel barrier?" Nancy said, "Nope." I said, "Bye-bye. Nothing else works." Yes, Chuck Schumer. I mean, call it a temper tantrum all you want. That's not what just happened to you, sir. You just got art of the dealed right there. That's what happened. And you could tell like Chuck was kind of beside himself and he just walked out. Oh my God. He just walked out. It was a temper tantrum. Oh my God. Nope. Nope. You just lost the argument, sir. And so sorry we didn't mention that in that brilliant segment that we put down about the wall, if I do say so myself. But we had to hit it back again here in segment 2 because this did happen. And this is the reason that we are currently at an impasse on the government opening up. And this is squarely, as Jim Jordan said, as Luke said in that first segment, right? This is squarely on the Democrats right now. And how do we know this? Because they're feeling the heat about it a lot more than Republicans are. This is their shutdown. This is not Trump's shutdown. This is their shutdown. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
Yeah. Again, a brilliant move by Trump.
Indeed. It sure was, man. It sure was. So art of the deal. I mean, President Trump, if I may say, more of this, okay? More of this exercise of raw political power in the face of your enemies, right? More unwillingness to negotiate on any terms except for your own, and less of this rhetoric about H-1B visa cucking right now, okay? We can take care of that sometime later, but Mr. President, this is for all the marbles right now. This is the fight of all of our political careers. Of your political career, of our very lives, sir. And we can't misstep right now. So more of this Chuck and Nancy walking out of meetings and stuff, less of these tweets about we're going to give a pathway to citizenship for H-1Bs. No, some other time, sir, respectfully.
Oh, man, that's just so good. I mean, it's just, it feels so good to hear about that because, if Mitt Romney were in office or something, he would have just been like, oh, you're not going to do it? Okay, well, I'll accept that, but can you give me something? Like that.
Absolutely.
That's what a Mitt Romney would have done, for example.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. Yes. Yeah. Anybody else, Lindsey Graham, Paul Ryan, anybody in the Republican Party would have cucked except for one person, and that is our president, dear listener. Anybody would have. And what a time, man. I thank God for this president. And even though he does screw up sometimes, I mean, don't get me wrong, he does, and, like Luke and I detailed on Grab Bag Special last week, that really kind of wasn't the way to handle things at that point in time. He screwed that up. He bought into the entire leftist frame in the Grab Bag Special that we showed last week, which was that press conference, kind of a misstep, so yeah. So, all right, let's ride on, man. What do we got next? We got corrections next. I think we do.
Yeah, we do. I've got I'll deliver this correction since it's a correction about me. So we've got one dear listener. Indeed, I think it's our dearest listener, right?
Yes.
Yeah, corrected something I said last week about protein intake. Of all the things that I could get wrong, this is what it is. So apparently I said that you could survive on 0 grams of protein, and apparently that's not true. You need 20. Okay, that's fair. I'll accept that. I don't know what the answer is, and I'll just accept that out of hand. But the point,
I suspect dear listener is right. I suspect.
Yeah. So, knowing who dearest listener is, I'm not going to counter signal that. But the point is that it was really to make a point about the fact that the individual with whom I was speaking when I said that they wanted me to say a number, and that number was wrong also, which their answer was 80 grams of protein is what you need to survive a day. And so yeah, while I got the number wrong, it's 20, not 0. The integrity of the argument that I was making still stands.
Indeed, sir.
So,
indeed.
But I was wrong.
This is not a threat to our accuracy whatsoever, sir. This is not a threat to our accuracy. I'll you know what? I'll take off 100th of a point on our accuracy on this. 100th. I think that's fair. 1/100th.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We're still at 99. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we're not like a nutritional advice show.
Yes, yes. We are philosophers and political commentators, and that's our wheelhouse. And our bad, dearest listener, our bad. We'll keep us straight, though. I mean, thank you for letting us know.
Watch this. We're gonna get all these. We're gonna get like all these comment. Like someone's gonna listen to this show and like listen to this audio out of context, and then they're gonna think that we're like rabid vegans or vegetarians or something. they're going to be like, you need to eat meat. And then we're going to have to address that next week, you know?
It's possible, man. Who knows? Anything is possible.
They're going to think that I was
HSP.
telling people last week. It's like, you don't need any protein to survive. Stop eating protein. They're going to just assume that that's what I said.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Protein in principle is anti-human life.
Yeah. Indeed, sir. It's quite possible. It is quite possible. I mean, our dear listeners do keep us on our toes, to be fair. They do. And we appreciate it, dear listeners. We do. We really do. So call us out when we're wrong.
Yeah, indeed.
We'll fix it. We'll fix it. So I also have a correction, Luke. There was a gal who I couldn't think of last week when we were talking about the Trump press conference, and the media gaggle jumped in, trying to get their question in. And there was one very rude question from a CNN reporter that went to the president, and I couldn't think of the gal's name. I'm talking about that Trump-hating flay queen battle bitch brunette from CNN. All right, her name is Caitlin Collins, of course. Right, square-jawed, right, brunette, thick eyebrows. Y'all know who she
high
is. Caitlin
testosterone.
Collins. Yes, indeed, high testosterone female.
Probably eats more than 20 grams of protein a day. If I were to,
Probably so. Probably more than me and Luke combined, and probably eats all kinds of other stuff too. Who knows, man? So yeah. So it was Caitlin Collins. My apologies. I told y'all that I couldn't think of it. It was very important, her identity in the context of what we were talking about in that grab bag special. Told you I'd get back at you about it. It's Caitlin Collins. My apologies. So, yep. Yeah. What else we got correction wise?
I think that's it, man.
Good. All right. Well, so we're staying up there, man. We're still like 99.5. We're still pretty much running a degree of temperature over here on the accuracy rating. So we're doing good, man. We're doing good.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
All
right. Did we got any updates? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, if we're doing this in degrees, we should switch to Celsius, and then that way nobody will have any idea how accurate we are.
That's a good point, man. That's a very good point. Yeah, we should. So, although when we go to Celsius, though, it's going to sound like a low number, right? Like it's going to be 40 degrees Celsius, and it's like, oh God, that doesn't sound quite as good as 99. You know what I mean? So yeah. Yep. So, all right, man. We got any updates?
I don't think so. If anybody is, so one piece of, this isn't really a piece of feedback, but I had somebody say something about the website doesn't look good on mobile. I'm doing the website. I'm doing it on my own. I don't know WordPress that well. I'm learning it, and it's not complicated, but it's time consuming. And between recording the shows, I mean, I'm doing 3 shows, and writing descriptions for everything, and SEO optimizing, and posting to YouTube, and determining hashtags and keyword searches. I mean, all of that, and then updating the website. So if the website doesn't look good, I know it needs a lot of work. I know it needs improvement. I only have so much time, and it's going to slowly get better over time. So if you don't like the website, I would encourage you, please, this will make my life much, much easier. Please send us, go to the contact form, 0-gravity-media.contact, and just say, hey, you should change this. It doesn't look good. Hey, this doesn't look good on mobile. Hey, do this. And even though I may not fix it right away, I will catalog all of that so I can use it to improve the website.
Indeed. Yes. And also, dear listener, I might say I've got a lot of WordPress experience, and Luke and I are using a WordPress template, right? And some of these templates are built, for they're enhanced for mobile. Some of them are not. Luke and I are using a mobile enhanced template, but WordPress updates frequently, right? The template itself updates frequently. And so things kind of change, right? So if something doesn't look right one particular day, Excuse me, dear listener, maybe go back and do a refresh and see if it looks better the next day, because WordPress is always a work in motion. It always updates. But thank you for calling it to our attention. And like Luke, I'd be glad to help out on WordPress if you need some help, man, because like dear listener, Luke really is burning the midnight oil up in here. And we're not trying to sing a sob story for you here or anything like that. We love what we do, but it does take a lot of time. You know what I mean? And, we've got full-time jobs. We can't do this for a living yet. We will be able to someday, dear listener. You believe this, but every bit of time that we have to give to this show is spare time. And hopefully that will change going forward with your kind patronage and your support. Hopefully we'll get there someday, but we're not there yet. We're still building, just like Luke said, a little piece of gear here, a little change in technique here, a little change in a graphic here. And, also, dear listener, we're also looking at redesigns. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there. Sometime this year, I would imagine, Luke, we'll probably have a rebranding and redesign period at some point in time this year.
Our next big expenditure is going to be the HSP logo, because right now it's a meme, a literal meme. And so we have to rebrand HSP. We need to get graphics for Random Walk and Friday Night. Well, Friday Night Comfy Post I think is fine right now, but I mean, so we've got some expenditures coming up that we're saving up for. And Russ briefly mentioned this. This is something that we haven't actually talked about on the show at all, which is monetization. And we don't know how we're going to move forward with this. I will tell you, we will always keep HSP free. We're not going to put it behind a paywall or anything like that. I would anticipate the same thing being the case with Random Walk and definitely Friday Night Comfy Post. And I don't know if we'll do the Joe Rogan style where we monetize on ads on YouTube and iTunes or something. I just don't, and then it doesn't impact the show at all. But just know, dear listener, that, regardless of what happens, HSP will always be free. So will Random Walk. And, I don't know, maybe we do some sort of Patreon or something. I don't know. Right now we're doing this for fun, and we will figure that out in due course when it's the appropriate time. But just know that we're not going to shut you out or something unless you're paying us $20 a month or something like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Never.
Yeah.
And, that said, also, advertisers, if you would like to advertise on HSP, give us a shout at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. Let us know. We will consider the notion, because the fact is also, dear listener, we're growing quickly, right? Things are really, we've got the wind at our back right now here at Zero Gravity Media. We really do. And things are changing quickly. And with growth, the show becomes more expensive.
I don't know about you, Russ. I'd like to stay away from the reading ads on the show and things like this.
Yeah, we've discussed this.
I like to have creative control. I don't want people telling us what we can say and what we can talk about and things like this. Or we're going to, we can't talk about that, or we're going to lose this sponsor. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it low impact. I don't even want the listener to even know.
Brick by brick, dear listener, we're going to improve brick by brick. We're going to build this house. And thank you for coming along and jumping in the saddle with us. Most of all, thank you. And we'll never let you down. Believe us. Believe that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, dude, let's move on to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What do you say?
Oh, man. RBG. Is it rude and premature to call for proof of life of RBG right now? Is that way out of line to say something like that? I mean...
Well, she missed second week, so...
Yes, she did. She has now, dear listener, missed a total of 3 sessions in the Supreme Court. Now, this is starting to look bad. I mean, let me put it to you this way, dear listener. There are lots of people on the internet right now that are making shows and such that honestly believe that RBG has already passed. Okay. For example, notice that on December 22nd, the president wished RBG a speedy recovery when she got out of the hospital from her cancer surgery. She had a lobectomy. She had part of her lung taken out because she had lung cancer, right? Well, the president has not wished her a speedy recovery after missing these sessions in the Supreme Court, right? So people are saying that this is not proof, but what they are suggesting is that they think that they know that the president knows that RBG has already passed. Now, scandalous indeed, right? We're not going to go there here at HSP. We're going to believe the facts that we see in front of us right now. The facts are thus. RBG has missed 3 sessions in the Supreme Court. She cannot hear arguments, and she's been working at home, reading transcripts, and, participating in the court passively this way. Now, this is very problematic, dear listener, for a wide variety of reasons, right? Like, for example, all right, you are appointed to the Supreme Court for life. If you can't go do your job in the Supreme Court, should you be on the Supreme Court? I would probably argue no, Luke. If you can't even get to the Supreme Court to hear arguments, you probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, dear listener. Russ and I both today for some reason.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I don't know how you could make a counter argument to that. So I'm there, and I'm serving. I'm there in spirit.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah,
right.
I don't know how you can make a counter argument to that. It just seems too logical.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Here pretty soon, what we are going to have to see, dear listener, is some type of proof, at least. I don't mean to put it so crudely in terms of proof of life, even though I do mean it, but I don't mean to be mean about it. But we're going to have to know that she's doing her job, okay? Like, somebody's going to have to take a photo of her sitting there in her sick bed, on her computer, on the phone, typing out emails, reading transcripts, because quite frankly, dear listener, this is so opaque right now, and she is kept under such cover of darkness the way things are right now. Anybody could be doing RBG's job at her house right now. Anybody could be acting as a Supreme Court justice right now in RBG's stead. Anybody could. Now, this is a problem, man. This is a problem. And RBG, we do wish you a speedy recovery, but ma'am, if you can't do the job, you need to resign.
Yeah, but where are you hearing this? Who's saying this?
I would rather not say, but a lot of seedier places on the internet who run very popular shows, a lot of stuff on Poll about this, a lot of stuff on Twitter about it. Now, one thing I will say is that Q has not said anything to this effect whatsoever. So it's not coming from Q. It's coming from other people, other commenters.
Yeah,
on
dude,
the internet.
I don't. I mean, I have found that, generally speaking, things are just not as complicated as you might think. I mean, I think this is
Occam's razor.
Yeah, I just think this is. I think she's just sick. She's in the hospital. Of course, they're not going to be live tweeting her surgery. You know what I mean? We're talking 2 weeks here. This is not. Had this been going on for 6 months, then I could definitely say, I could definitely see the motivation to want to try to understand what's going on. But we are literally talking 2 weeks. It's people, come on, she just had surgery. Give it some time. These things take time. You know?
Yeah, and she's 85 years old, so she's going to heal a little bit, more slowly than most of us that are, a little bit younger than 85, and so yes, this is true, but I might push back just a little bit, sure, Luke, because the left has really united around RBG right now. Why? Because they don't want Trump to have the opportunity to appoint another Supreme Court justice, right? Of course, that's why they're doing it, So, but you got to keep in mind when on December 21st, right before Christmas, when RBG had her surgery, the surgery was successful. Everybody on the left started posting all the RBG workout memes again. See, she's fine. She's fine. She's perfectly capable. Even her doctors themselves said she is perfectly capable of returning to the Supreme Court. She is in full form. There is no evidence of cancer. Go RBG, Slay Queen. Go RBG. Well, then all of a sudden, after all of this, then it turns out that she can't go back to work. She can't do it. Right. So now I don't want to get into all the conspiracy stuff again. We just don't know anything about that. And it seems kind of specious at best. But the point remains, right? The left was wrong. The left lied about the fact that she could totally return to her job and go back to work.
Yeah, but
that was factually incorrect.
But this is just par for the course for them. How is that out of the normal?
Indeed.
I mean, I look at that. I'm like, of course they're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Again, I mean, I find none of this to be out of the ordinary. If this went on for 6 weeks, another 6 weeks, I don't think it'll go on for 6 months. But if it went on for another 6 weeks, then I might start to wonder, okay, like something is going on. Like we need to really start talking about this. But it's just like, give it a rest, people. Like, let the left make a fool of themselves. Don't make a fool of us,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And, also, dear listener, I might also say there is a lot of talk on the right about wishing that RBG would pass away. You got to stop that, man. And it's horrible optics. It's horrible thought. That is a pro-death stance. That's not a pro-life stance. I understand how badly we all want Trump to be able to appoint a new Supreme Court nominee. It's going to be great entertainment, just like Kavanaugh was, if despicable. But, we all want this. But, like, man, don't wish harm on another human being.
I would call this, like, if I could coin a phrase, I would call this, like, have good faith politics, right? Like,
indeed.
Look, don't wish death upon people just so we can, like, get a leg up politically. Like, let's do this in good faith. Like, she's a human being. Let's hope she gets better, while we can sort of, in the back of our minds, think to ourselves, okay, we will go to Supreme Court, but like, we don't need to talk about that. That's just crass,
it is. And, it is.
Like, just have good faith politics and don't, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that, I guess.
Yeah, same here. I echo those sentiments. Well said. So, yeah. So, so dear listener, I know none of our dear listeners would be so crass and insensitive to do something like that. But if you hear somebody that talking about, I mean, in the public space, behind closed doors, say whatever you want. It doesn't really affect the world. But out there on the streets, right, anywhere in the world, saying something like this, these ideas have a tendency to reverberate. So if you hear somebody, saying something tacky about RBG like that, I mean, don't get up on their set about it. Don't get in their face about it, but maybe just be like, hey, man, come on, let's hold it down. Stay classy, man. Stay classy. That would be my advice. Yeah. So,
if we don't, she makes it through to the next presidency and it's not Trump that's in the office and it's a Democrat, well, that's how the chips fall. Right. And that's just what it is. That's nothing more to be said about that. So don't, just don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I will say objectively, I do think that RBG is a rather horrible Supreme Court justice, but like, man, I don't hold that against her personally. It's a professional thing. It's politics, man. It's just
she's
politics.
She's trying to read a living document. We all know how difficult that is.
Yeah. Indeed.
Near impossible to do it objectively. In fact, it is impossible. It's a living document. It has feelings,
Indeed, man. It does. Yes, it responds to stimuli. Yes.
The Constitution has become sentient.
Oh yes. So, yeah. So I mean that's about all I got. But I mean, first of all, I was surprised that she missed 3 days because she is a soldier. Nobody can deny that, man. I mean, she is. If there is anybody, she has never missed a Supreme Court session, dear listener, ever. In her, how long was it? She was sworn in 95. Is that correct? So like we're talking a pretty close to 25 years.
Yeah, she was a Clinton.
Yeah.
She was a Clinton justice.
Yeah. 93 it was. It is 25 years and she's never missed a day of work. So I was surprised, I was pretty surprised. So, yeah.
You know what we ought to do, Russ? I think I think Trump, he should and I think the right in general, it's like we need to start selecting Japanese justices, because like their lifespan is so much longer. Like,
indeed, man.
One day they're going to be like, what? Why are all the Republican justices all Japanese?
Yeah. and 150. Come on, man. You know,
their one condition for being confirmed or for being nominated is when it comes to medical advancement, you always rule on the side of that, to increase longevity of life,
Indeed. Yes. Oh man. Yep. Well, let's ride, man. What do we got
Syria.
next? Oh, God. Okay. All right. So, dear listener, here's what's going on in Syria. We'll try to make this brief. The withdrawal from Syria is going on, right? Despite protestation from John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor, despite protestation from Mike Pompeo, the withdrawal is objectively happening. I read from a Zero Hedge piece right now. Contrary to assurances from Trump's national security advisor, neocon John Bolton, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who suggested earlier this week that U.S. troops would remain in Syria for at least a little while longer, meaning that what they said is that U.S. troops would stay there until Iran completely withdraws from Syria. The Associated Press reported on Friday that the U.S. has begun the process of removing the 2,000 soldiers based in northeastern Syria, citing information provided by activists within the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The withdrawal officially began Thursday night, local time. A convoy of about 10 armored vehicles and some trucks left the town of Rumaylan, I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry about that, dear listener, and drove into Iraq. Colonel Sean Ryer, spokesman for the coalition fighting the Islamic State group, later confirmed that the U.S. has started, quote, the process of our deliberate withdrawal from Syria. I'm going to skip down to the bottom of the article right about down here. All right. Initially, Trump had said the pullout would be complete within a matter of weeks, but plans became murky after the Pentagon requested 4 months to complete the withdrawal. Last night, the Wall Street Journal reported that the withdrawal would begin immediately. Scores of ground troops are headed towards Syria to blah, 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 blah. I'm going to quote, nothing has changed, one defense official said. We don't take orders from Bolton. Oof. So, dear listener, the withdrawal is happening, and it's happening at a pretty rapid clip right now. We're removing men and material from the ground in Syria right now. Don't listen to the fake news about any of this. Now, I went and closed the article. All right, I've got it back open. There have been a lot of other things about Syria that have been going on this week as well, dear listener, and that is specifically that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is kind of making a tour around Middle Eastern countries, and he's on diplomatic missions to these countries, and he's also giving press conferences and giving speeches. Well, dear listener, on January 10th, he gave a bombshell of a speech. I'm going to read from a Washington Examiner piece right now. I'm going to take it from the lead. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo declared an end to the age of self-inflicted American shame, quote, the age of self-inflicted American shame, end quote, in Cairo on Thursday in a speech intended to repudiate then-President Barack Obama's 2009 address to the region. Quote, America is a force for good in the Middle East, Pompeo told an assembly at the American University. Quote, we need to acknowledge that truth because if we don't, we make bad choices. Quote, when America retreats, chaos follows, Pompeo said. Quote, the age of self-inflicted American shame is over, and so are the policies that produce so much needless suffering. President Trump has made the decision to bring our troops home from Syria. We always do, and now is the time. But this isn't a change of mission. We remain committed to the complete dismantling of the ISIS threat and the ongoing fight against radical Islamism in all its forms. He went on to, he was pretty harsh with radical Islam, dear listener. I'm not going to read those quotes specifically now. Pompeo asks, would the Russians or the Chinese come to your rescue in the same way that we have? Ooh. Erdogan has made commitments. He talks about he has no beef with the Kurds, Pompeo told reporters on Wednesday. We want to make sure that that's the case, and I'm confident that as Ambassador James Jeffrey and others travel through the region in the days ahead, we'll make real progress on that. Now, dear listener, this is why I think that this is such a huge, huge speech. BTFO Obama. Right? Remember Obama's apology tour? Well, we've made a lot of mistakes and we've gotten a lot of things wrong in the Middle East. And, because we're such a racist country against Islam, we just, kind of fought from the paradigm of racism. You know, I mean, that's not specifically what he said, but garbage like that. All right. Pompeo, number one, went and totally BTFO'd Obama as a president, as a human being, and totally dismantled his arguments and said the age of this time is over.
When did he do that?
Go ahead. That was on Wednesday of this past week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Wednesday of this past week.
Can you give like a brief 2-sentence summary of how he did that for dear listener?
Yeah. He went in there to Egypt, right? Which you got to remember, Egypt was kind of in the midst of revolution, right? Really in bad shape back in 2009, right? And they were experiencing what was called the Arab Spring. They almost went into full-on revolution back then, right? And, so Obama kind of went over there and said, well, this is America's fault. You know, there's all this unrest over here. This is our fault. Okay. Yeah. So what Secretary of State Pompeo is doing is course correcting, right? And he's also saying, okay, now listen, don't get up on us because we're leaving Syria. Don't accuse us of being callous toward the Kurds. Don't accuse us of racism. Don't accuse us of hate. We came here and we came to your rescue like we always do, unlike China, unlike Russia, and the gist of the argument is this, dear listener, because America is a force for good. Right now, I would love to see the media counter signal that they're gonna. I mean, I'm expecting it any minute now for them to come out and be like, "Oh my God, Mike Pompeo is such a racist. It's just so despicable. It's so racist. America is a force for good. Are you kidding me?" Yeah, bring it, media. Right? Because Mike Pompeo happens to be right. Now, Luke and I don't think that we should have intervened so much in the Middle East as we have. We kind of want to get out of there and leave them to their own affairs, right? But when things go bad, bro, we do go rescue people in the Middle East. We kind of mucked things up in Syria because we didn't have a clear foreign policy agenda.
We've mucked things up everywhere in the Middle East because we've never had a clear foreign policy since World War II. World War II was the last time that we have had a coherent and principled foreign policy. That's the last time.
Indeed. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. And, but what Mike Pompeo is saying is that we do have our business together now. We are focused and we're here for you if you need us. We're going to help you with ISIS. We're going to BTFO them right now, but we're going to get out of your business. That's coherent foreign policy. And I think it's smart. And I think it's right to claim that America is good rather than, what Barack Obama did, go over there and say, oh, America's this evil, racist country who is responsible for all this unrest.
Yeah, I mean, this is why, like, okay, so maybe what Trump is doing is not the right. Okay, we could talk about this and debate about it and whether this is the right decision. But what we can say is when Barack Obama or anybody, it doesn't need to be Obama, it could be anybody, when they go over to the Middle East and they apologize, that makes them hate us more. That makes them resent us more. That makes them respect us less. Nobody respects somebody. Yeah, nobody respects somebody who's constantly apologizing for what they do. People only have contempt for those kind of people that are constantly apologetic. It's like when a girl is like dating a guy. And the guy is like so supplicating and apologetic. And, oh, I'm sorry. Did that? Is this okay? Is this a bacon wrapped prime rib? Is that this bacon wrapped fillet? Is that okay with you? Like she's not going to respect him. She's going to have nothing but utter contempt for him because of how weak and pathetic he is. And this is the same thing. We're going over there. Oh yeah, we indebted our nation $10 trillion to help you. Sorry about that. I mean, what kind of? My God, dude, it's just so pathetic, and so weak.
It was, man. This was one of those moments where I really fell out with Obama, and it was very early in his administration when it happened, but where I was like, oh my God, what is this? And, of course, the commentators on the right at that point in time made hay of that situation because, man, Luke is absolutely correct. You don't, after years of war in a region, go over and apologize for it. Oh, our bad. Sorry about that. I mean, what would you think? What would you think, dear listener? You would think, well, then, if you're going to apologize for it, then why in the hell did you do it in the first place? You know what I mean? So, it was one of those truly despicable Obama moments of many. Of many.
Totally.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's about all I got, Luke. But I like what I'm hearing, right? Like slowly, one by one, like, oh my God, we can't leave the Kurds over there. The Kurds have helped us fight this war, and they're going to be squashed by Erdogan in Turkey, and blah blah blah. And Mike Pompeo's like, no, we're not going to leave the Kurds. We're not going to abandon them. In fact, as we reported 2 episodes back, dear listener, the Kurds are in negotiation to live within Syria right now and vote in that country. Things are looking pretty good for the Kurds right now. They don't need us. They don't need us right now. And, if they ever do, we'll come to their aid, right? But not right now. It's not necessary. So I think it's nothing but good, Luke. What's happening in Syria, I think this is just a awful situation we never should have been in before. I'm going to make a prediction as well, because you got to remember, John Bolton's been over there, fire and brimstone. We're not leaving until Iran leaves and blah, 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 blah. Then you got Mike Pompeo saying, okay, yeah, we are actually going to leave, and we're going to use diplomacy in order to get Iran out of Syria. We're going to make the world make Iran get out of Syria. Okay. So John Bolton has really been kind of counter-signaled by the president, by the Secretary of State, by just about everybody at this point in time. And I'm going on the record predicting we are seeing the latter days of John Bolton's term within the presidential cabinet. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but I think that it's not long now.
Yeah.
Kind of like what, when Kelly and Mad Dog stepped down, and turns out now we see why, because they were such a bunch of cucks in the first place, man. Their behavior since they got out of the cabinet to a man, both of them, has been absolutely despicable and unmilitary and undisciplined.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that you're also seeing the end of just neocon in general. This is just so classic neocon foreign policy, which is this, it's this hatred of certain countries like Iran. I mean, okay, Iran is an evil country, all right? I'm not sugarcoating this. But they couch that hatred. They couch that resentment, that hatred, this antagonistic outlook towards these countries. They couch it in sacrifice. That's what makes it so dangerous. Mm-hmm. They couch it in...
Well
they
said.
couch it in this like, oh no, well, we hate Iran. We're not pulling out of Syria. But we're not there for us. We're there for the Syrians and the Kurds. That's what we're really there for, right? So they have this certain stance towards people, and then they couch it all in this sort of moralistic. We're there to sacrifice ourselves for others. Look how moral we are. We're sacrificing ourselves for the Kurds. And then when you're like, hey, maybe we should probably not do that anymore. He's like, oh no, we hate Iran. And then it's like, then they show their real colors,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very, very astute. Very well said, Luke. I couldn't agree more. BTFO BTFO'd neocons. I think that's kind of where we're heading toward.
Good,
and
dude.
certainly this is absolutely.
The neocons are the worst thing that has ever happened to the right.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And God, how many decades did we live under their tyranny as, people that really kind of wanted to be right wing, but just couldn't do it because it was all neocons like Cuck Romney, like John McStain, people like this, you know what I mean, who were running the show to our detriment, to we the people's detriment for decades and decades. It just seemed like it would never stop.
Yeah, I mean, the insidious and dangerous thing is that they looped everybody on the right into them. And then come to find out, as we detailed last show, they are just nothing more than this the neo-blob, this blob sort of gelatinous middle ground that sort of merges with the left, the middle ground left, and that's really what it is. So as we were talking about last week, where we had 3 political parties, I mean, this is the dangerous thing about the neocons. They were looping the right into this like gelatinous neo blob that was always just left. It was slightly left of center, and this is why we see this slow slow creep of the blob moving left. It's the blob, and it's like sort of a plane going flying through the air, and there's some crosswinds constantly pushing it a little bit to the left, and then over the course of 3 hours, it's like way off course, and it's way the hell far to the left, and you didn't even know that was happening, and that's what the neo blob is. And so just get out. I'm so done with the neocons.
Yes, me too, sir. Me too. And dear listener, this is why Luke and I were ride or die in the meme wars for President Trump from the very beginning. From what was the date? June 7th of 2015. Luke and I were not going to drink that night. And then after the president descended the escalator with his lovely wife, and now First Lady Melania Trump, after they descended the gilded escalator and came and gave that speech, Luke was like texting me at work like, "Are you watching this, bro?" I was like, yes, I am. And man, we were like, we drank it tonight now. And that is, dear listener, why we got on the Trump train right then and there, because that was our only one hope for getting this yoke of the neocons off of our backs. That was our one greatest hope. And to President Trump's credit, this seems to be one of the things that he is pulling off very effectively. So thank you, Mr. President. We will praise. We won't always complain, Mr. President. We will praise you when you deserve it. And thank you, Mr. President, for getting us out of this mess, for this decades-long mess. And let them go to the left. Let the left deal with
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
seriously. Yeah,
which does make me happy that it's sort of like ocasio-cortez and. Although, okay, I understand her name is Ocasio-Cortez, but I'm pretty sure in Spanish that's not how you pronounce it. I mean, if we're going to pronounce it properly, it's got to be Ocasio, right? But everyone says Ocasio.
I would actually think that it truly is Ocasio-Cortez, but I hate to say that because I love how you call her Ocasio-Cortez, and I hope you continue to do it. So,
all right, well, yeah, I don't care. No one's corrected me yet. So, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it hasn't impacted our accuracy rating. So I'm just going to continue to,
absolutely.
I'll mispronounce it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it's more their baggage at this point. Mm-hmm. It's just so great. It's like you deal with the neocons, have them.
Yep.
Because it's sort of it's one step removed, but it's still the same baggage. It's just this hatred of Trump that they all they all sort of surround the campfire like with. It's like it's just this hatred of Trump. As long as you hate Trump, we're on the same side. It's sort of like the political landscape right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So to the left, man. Have them.
Well
we don't want them. Get them out. Yeah. Purge them.
Indeed, sir. Indeed. Yes. No more adventurism. No more pointless wars. Right. No more wars without objectives. The objective of all of these neocon wars, I would even say, including the Vietnam War, seem to be. And listen, veterans, I'm not taking away from your service. I deeply revere you and thank you for your service to our great country. Nonetheless, I think that our foreign policy has gotten you into wars that seem to have no objective other than the war itself, than just staying in war. You know what I mean? It's certainly not objectives to win the war and get out of the war. Certainly not those types of objectives, So, and this descends from a lack of coherent foreign policy, like we detailed. That's just what it is. How can you fight a war?
Yeah, I mean, our foreign policy now is just based upon go to war for any reason as long as it's not for our own sake. So let's go to Vietnam. Let's fight in Vietnam, but we're doing it to save the Vietnamese from communism. We're not doing it because we don't like communism and we don't want it to come over here. Now, I'm not making a case for whether we should have gone there or not. I'm just saying that we're always going there for the sake of the other. It's after 9/11, it wasn't Operation Defend America. It was Operation Iraqi Freedom. We were there to free the Iraqis from this tyrannical regime.
Right.
We weren't there to defend ourselves and put an end to terrorism and Islamic totalitarianism, which is the real enemy in all this. We weren't there to do that. We were there to free the Iraqis, or ostensibly anyways. So, I mean, when we need to get back to a foreign policy of, really an America first foreign policy, a real America First foreign policy, which is that we are totally and completely and entirely self-interested in the very meaning of the words self-interested. That's it. And that doesn't mean that we're just going to go conquer countries and then take all their resources or anything like this. I'm not saying that. I mean, yes, there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had about what self-interested means, but what I'm saying is that is the principle which necessarily has to underlie a foreign policy if that foreign policy is going to be successful. That is the principle that has to underlie it.
Indeed, sir. Well said. Well said. Yes.
All right, dude. Is that it for Syria? Are we on to... All right, well, I mean, if that's it for Syria, then I guess that means we're on to another.
That's about all I got, man. I think we knocked that one out of the park, too.
All right,
I think we're doing all right,
I don't know.
man.
That seemed like a short segment. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't. I have no idea. I'm not even watching my waveform.
Yeah, well, I think we're running about 2 hours right now. And you know what? It's funny you say that, Luke, because, man, dear listener, there are so many topics here. I don't know where to go right now, Luke. Should we take a break real fast, regroup, refill, do all of this type of thing, and chart the course?
What we ought to do is knock the feedback out now.
Oh, definitely.
And then
we'll
take, because normally we do break and then we come back and do feedback and do grab bag special. But I would suggest we just do the feedback now and then take a break and come back and do grab bag special.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Cool.
Let's do it.
I've got some feedback. I had a lot of positive feedback about Russ's performance last week, and I will echo that. Russ, you freaking killed it last week, man. Well done.
Why, thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
And I've got another piece of feedback from a dear listener who wants us to explain what Keynesian economics versus Austrian economics is. I think last week I referred to... What was it? Sticky. I was talking about sticky wages, the Accountable Capitalism Act. Talking about sticky wages. I think I referred to it as a basic bitch understanding of economics, if my memory serves correct. And indeed it is. And this dear listener gave it to me literally an hour before we were set to record. So I need to go listen to what I said, and then I need to formulate a proper response. So sorry, dear listener. I didn't have time to do that. You gave me this feedback right before the show, so I will get to that next week, and I will sort of explain what I said, why that's a basic bitch understanding of economics, why that is Keynesian economics, and then how Austrian economics, what that is, and how that dismantles that. So that'll probably be pretty long answer, because that's a lot to unpack there.
It is. I mean, really, Keynesian and Austrian economics themselves. I mean, we're going to have to kind of stay in primer land on these because, man, these are very deep topics.
Yeah, for
indeed. Sure. These are things Luke and I study exhaustively. I mean, we study this stuff. But, these are very deep topics, and Luke and I are not economists. We know enough that we can inform you about things, but we'll probably try to do it in terms of like a highlight reel type of thing, because literally, dear listener, we could do 10 3-hour shows about just Austrian economics and still never really cover it. That's just kind of
I mean, this isn't going to be a treatise on Austrian economics and Keynesian economics and all this and that. It will be a high level. I'll try to keep it to just a couple of minutes. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll give you like the quick backstory on Keynes and Ludwig von Mises and Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek. Those are the three big. Well, Milton Friedman, I guess, is Chicago school, but Friedrich Hayek and Ludwig von Mises are both Austrian schools. So I don't know. Maybe we'll give a quick backstory of those. But in any case, I'll get to that next week, dear listener. Don't worry about it. And
I would also say honorary mention of Thomas Sowell. I would say honorary mention. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I just view him as a still living, brilliant economist. I don't know. Is he Chicago?
Yes. I would say, I mean, he studied under Milton Friedman. Then, I would say yes.
He's Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. And I think that's it, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm trying to think if I got anything. I also got compliments about the show last week. A lot of people said that it was our very best effort, Luke, so far. So thank you very much, dear listener. I mean, we're here for you, and we're trying to improve every single week. Hopefully, this week is better than the last. Hopefully, next week is better than this. That's what we labor for. And Luke, I feel like I did have some kind of feedback now that I'm talking about it, but I can't remember it. So, let me search through texts and emails and see if I can find that.
Yeah, do it on the break, and if you find it, then you find it.
Yep. All right, good deal.
All right.
All
Yeah,
right,
let's
we break now. All right, dear listener, thank you so much for riding in the saddle with us. We hope you're enjoying this show as much as Luke and I are. Give us about 10, 15 minutes of our time, 10 seconds of yours. We'll be back at you before you know it.
All right, dear listener, welcome back to HSP, episode number 22. Luke and Russ in the house with you. Russ, I got my, I just busted open my final segment celebratory drink.
Oh yeah? What you drinking?
Well, I've got the Jim Beam honey.
Oh man, yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I get it because I'm such a label cuck. It's like, if you have a good label, I'm probably going to buy it. So I don't know. I just really like the aesthetics of their labeling.
I do too.
It's got like the honeycomb across it, and it's black and sort of gold. It really matches like everything I have going on my desk. And I've got these like beeswax candles that Jessica makes for me that I light, and it just all matches and comes together. So I really buy it for the aesthetics. I mean, it also tastes pretty good too, but
yeah, it does.
It's kind of funny. It's like my reasoning for buying it is so superficial.
But it isn't though, man. It is good stuff. And I mean, our boy in San Francisco, I can personally attest, man. We have had gallons of Jim Beam over the past 10 years. You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say the past like 12 months.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. So. Yeah. Yes, sir. So, man, what do we got on tap for this segment? We got grab bag special, and
you never said what celebratory drink you're having.
Oh, I'm having a fine Shiner Bock beer right now. I'm
Nice.
gonna, as soon as we get off the horn, I'm gonna pour myself a delicious Four Roses bourbon, neat. And I'm just sitting here chilling with Shiner Bock right now, which is the god tier beer of the entire world, dear listener. I mean, yes, Shiner Bock has saved my soul and continues to do so, if I may say.
You're saved.
Yeah, saved. Yes, indeed.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been a huge fan of Shiner Bock.
Really? Wow,
Yeah,
you're man, huh?
Yeah, but dude, I like really cheap beers. I like two kinds of beer. I like cheap beers. My favorite beer, the best poolside beer ever, in my opinion, is Budweiser, specifically from a can, not from a bottle, but from a can. It's like, if I'm poolside, give me a Budweiser in a can. I love Bud Heavy. It's my favorite beer. Yeah, that, and then just, dude, German Hefeweizen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. That stuff is great, man. Yeah.
Dude, my dad came and visited me back this past June, and we went to like a bar or something. I don't remember, and we ordered a Hef. And he was like, "Yeah, baby, this is why I came." And I was like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "You didn't come to see me, you came for the Hef." All right.
Oh man, too good. Yeah, man, I love a German Hef. I do, man. There are a couple places in San Francisco that have exquisite ones that, places which Luke and I did frequent, if I may say, we did, and lots of other friends of ours came along for the ride as well. I guess Luke and I kind of everybody's along for the ride in these social gatherings, dear listener. Those were great times, man. Luke and I look back on them fondly, and dear listeners, of whom Luke and I speak, you know who you are and know that we miss you so terribly. Those were good times, and we will have them once again someday. We will, but Yeah, man. So, like, talking about beers, I love German Hefts. I love Shiner Bock. There is a certain dear listener with whom I consume copious amounts of Coors Heavy. I love Coors Heavy, man. It's just this refreshing beer, man. I just love it, and I don't know, man. I like all beer. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. I just like all beer, Beer is such a... Who was it? It was, I can't remember. Beer is proof that God loves us.
I think that was Benjamin Franklin, wasn't it?
Maybe so. I think it... I'm going to look this up right now.
Yeah, it's Benjamin Franklin.
It is? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well said, Mr. Founding Father. Indeed, sir. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, dude, I'm keto now, so I'm in ketosis. I gotta stay away from the beer, man. I mean, it actually doesn't have that many carbs, as many carbs as you think. You could have like a big Hefeweizen and be fine. You wouldn't get kicked out of keto, but I absolutely love ketosis. So I try not to.
Really?
I love it, dude. I love it so much. It does wonders for me physiologically, psychologically. I just love it.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a show. Like, we'll have to get Robert in here with us. But I've become a huge fan of ketosis and intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's my thing. So Saturday morning, I wake up. I have Käse Laugenbrötchen, which is like this. Just we've got this bakery that's just been in business for like 120 years, like 2 blocks away. And my mother-in-law goes down there. They have like a little bag of bread ready for it. It's the same thing every Saturday, year round, every Saturday. And you just go down there and ask for it. And so Saturday morning breakfast, I probably kick myself out of keto. I have like 2 of those things, which does me well. And then by Sunday, I'm already by Sunday night, Monday, I'm basically getting back into ketosis. And then on Thursday, I will just go on like a very aggressive intermittent fast from basically like Thursday morning until Friday night, almost.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So like when I do an intermittent fast, I go for like a day. I don't do 2 days. That's hardcore, man. But it's good for you. It's truly really good for you. So
yeah, I mean, I'm so deep into ketosis at that point that my ghrelin levels, which, dear listener, ghrelin is the hormone which makes you feel hungry. And when you're in ketosis, ghrelin levels are just like super flat line, just so low. You're just not hungry. It's fantastic. I'm so productive when I'm in ketosis because I'm never distracted by being hungry. And you're making you're making your body, your physiological processes, a slave to your mind, which is normally it's the other way around. It's just fantastic. And anyways, so yeah, dude, I'm so deep in ketosis by Thursday that I just go into a fast and I can drop like 5 pounds a week if I want to.
Wow.
Doing
impressive.
this. Yeah, dude, it's great.
Yeah, that's very impressive, man. Good on you, Luke. Good on you. So continual improvement. I try
not to do that. I try to keep it like 2 pounds, 3 pounds a week. But
yeah.
Anyways, we can talk about this another. This is more like Friday night comfy post material.
Yeah. So it is. So, oh yes, dear listener. Speaking of Friday night comfy post is coming at you. We think it was a good one. Not that we can remember it, but we think it was a good one.
What, last night?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's so difficult for me, man, because it's like 12:30 my time when we start recording.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it was. I think we went until you finally got off the horn at like 4 in the morning, something like that.
Yeah, dude. And then I have to wake up. Then I have to wake up, eat breakfast, and then like today I had to go to IKEA with Jessica. Oh man, it was miserable. I mean, it's fine, like I wasn't like hungover or anything, but.
Yeah,
I was just tired, because like I didn't drink a whole lot or anything, but I was just, dude, walking around IKEA when it's just packed.
Yeah, believe me, I know.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like envious of the kids playing in the ball pit. I was like, I just want to go in there and take a nap and then have Jessica wake me up when she's ready to leave.
Yes, sir. I've felt that same thing before. I totally get it. So, oh man. Oh. All right, well, let's throw down some content, man. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, dear listener, we do have a good grab bag special coming at you. We are going to cover, well, you know what? We'll surprise you when we get there. But I just want to give a shout out to the bottom of the stack this week, dear listener. Luke and I had to be very discerning in our curation of the topics for this week. There is a lot of stuff that went down, dear listener, and I'm looking at my bottom of the stack stuff right now. There were 4, count them, 4 pieces of legislation signed this week that were against human trafficking. Read child trafficking. Read pedophilia. HSP boys entirely vindicated and proven correct just based on the proof is in the pudding of the legal action. We can't really get into it. If we have a slow news week sometime, maybe we'll get to it. What else do we have here? Oh, yeah, this whole Reid Hoffman story. Okay. Reid Hoffman is the guy, former LinkedIn employee, billionaire, who has been funding Russia collusion hoaxes all over in the elections, right? He funded an organization which had a bunch of Russian bots follow Roy Moore in the Roy Moore special election so that they could dirty Roy Moore up and make him look like he's a Russian, Russia, you know? And he also has just been proven to have been putting out kind of psyop-y propaganda, when you get right down to it, kind of conservative baiting propaganda about like Trump's disappointing us, don't go to the polls. And it seems like it was really effective. And a lot of money was spent on Facebook, 6 figures types of money, far cry from any amount of money that Russians spent on advertising for Trump on Facebook. I mean, a far cry from it. So again, you know, dear listener, whatever the left accuses you of, look at it in the mirror, shine it right back at them, because whatever it is they accuse you of, that's exactly what they're doing. And we're proven and vindicated on this over and over and over again. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, I've got 7 topics here that are bottom of the stack, but I do want to shout out to Spygate real quick. All right, Luke and I decided we don't want to get into it this week. Spygate's our baby, man. We love this story. It just gets better and better and better. And we decided not to talk about it this week, but I just want to say one thing about it, and that is this. Now, there is a lot of black pilling going on in the conservative idea sphere about Huber was a Sessions trick, right? It was an underhanded, dirty trick to make it look like the government is doing something to investigate Hillary Clinton, and it's all just fraudulent. There's nothing happening. Well, all right. I understand your frustration, dear listeners, fellow, right-wing patriots. I get where you're coming from. The pace of this is really slow. It is agonizingly slow. But look, things are happening. Rod Rosenstein this week said that he is going to step down as deputy AG when the Mueller report is completed. All right. That's huge. Stuff is happening. I just found this out last night, Luke. I didn't even realize till we got off the phone on Friday Night Comfy Post. Lisa Page's transcripts from her congressional testimony were published this week. They were published yesterday on Friday, and there are some bombshells in there. She essentially proves that the DOJ exonerated Hillary on her bathhouse email server, dear listener, and all of this kind of stuff when James Comey came out and said no reasonable prosecutor would try this case. Well, they did this very intentionally. They were very aware of the legal liabilities that were going on here, and they probably broke the law. And Lisa Page's stories, her testimony, proves this, okay? Now, I didn't quite have the chance to read the whole transcript yet, dear listeners, so that is another reason we put it to bottom of the stack. But there's lots of stuff going on with Spygate. There are lots of other bombshells that broke with Spygate this week. But the only thing I want to say, dear listener, fellow patriots, don't black pill. Things are happening. Yes, it's not fast enough, but things are definitely happening. Look how many people have left the FBI and the DOJ in the last year. All right. So let's just be a little bit patient about it. And Luke and I probably will get into to further detail on Spygate, because I have a feeling that John Solomon is going to break something this week. So HSP boys will stay on it. Dear listener, we'll let you know what's going on next week, but there's a lot. So Luke and I just moved it to bottom of the stack for this week. Too much other good stuff to talk about. Too many other things happened. So that's it. That's all I got. And I mean, Luke's got a hell of bottom of the stack himself. I mean, believe me, dear listener, there's stuff going on that we just can't get to in these hallowed halls of HSP with only 3 hours to share with you.
What we should do, Russ? We should start putting bots like up on the website. and let people see what we didn't talk about. So that way,
that's a great idea. Yeah.
You know, that way if they're like, what? Why didn't you talk about that? Of course, I don't know. We're probably asking for trouble here, but
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think, I don't know. That might be interesting. Also, dude, there was one segment that we never, we invited Dear Listener to do and then never followed up with it.
Oh, that's right. That's correct. Yes.
Do you remember what this is?
Absolutely correct. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
About,
yes.
Oh, hell, what was it? It was asking them to, we were going to offer up a topic and then invite them to give their take on it. And then we would dissect it the following week.
Yes. And probably, in fact, quote their takes on it. Yes. Yeah. We totally, you're right. We spaced on that. I mean, you know, Dear Listener, it really is because it's just so much going on. You know what I mean? But man, I love that segment idea. We've got to do it, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's pick a topic. What do you think?
Okay. So we've got expand upon the concept of finite natural resources. That might actually be interesting. Cruz introduces bill for term limits. 9/11 papers leak. I'm not. Vatican paid tribute to the 60th anniversary of Cuban Revolution. Gun use surges in Europe, where firearms are rare. Oh, and then Huber. And Sargon off Patreon. Dude, okay, I'm voting Sargon off Patreon. That's my vote.
Okay, yeah. That's good. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, dear listener, so this is all over. You can find information this everywhere online. You really have to just be, I mean, well, hell, I was going to say, even if you're just watching Fox News, you'd still hear about it because they've even been talking about it. So there is I don't know that I'd call him IDW, intellectual dark web, but
I wouldn't go so far as that. Yeah.
But there's a guy, he would describe himself as a left-leaning classical liberal from England. His original YouTube channel was Sargon of Akkad. That's his sort of handle. I think it's Carl Benjamin is his real name, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a big following. He sort of made his name by BTFOing feminists and stuff on YouTube. I mean, this is pretty low-hanging fruit at this point, but that's how he made his name for himself. And so, in any case, he said some things that got him removed from Patreon. Patreon deplatformed him. And by that, we really mean they just kicked him off of his platform, eliminated his income stream. If you don't know what Patreon is a platform for artists or content producers to receive money for the content that they produce. So, like, for example, if we wanted to get on Patreon, we would, say, oh, there's a $5 tier. Every time we post Hardly Strictly Politics, you donate $5 or something like this, And Patreon sort of automates all of that. So you can just say, I really like this person. I listen to all their shows and I want to give $1 to every show they produce. And then Patreon will facilitate that process of charging you for each show and then giving it to the content producer. It's just a way to it's a direct way of paying artists for the work they produce that you like for your values. So in any case, that's what Patreon is. So Patreon removed Sargon off of their platform, and it's a big happening right now in the free speech movement. Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin have announced that they are both leaving Patreon on January 15th. Dave Rubin, I know this week, was on Tucker Carlson talking about leaving Patreon on January 15th. Sam Harris has already left Patreon. So this is, and there's a big backlash to this. And this seems to be the sort of line in the sand with people on the right, even though Sam Harris is not actually right-wing. He's more just sort of intellectual dark web, free speech. And this seems to be a line in the sand, and people are taking a stand over it. So here's what we'll do. Send us an email with your take on it. Send it to feedback@zero-gravity-media.com and tell us your take on it. Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? If you want information, just Google it. Just Google Sargon of Akkad. It's SARGON and then of and then AKKAD. Sargon of Akkad. I guarantee you, like, the top Google search results will be all the information about this. So
can't miss it.
Yeah, just read about it and then send us an email, feedback@zero-gravity-media.com with your take on it, and we will, of course, anonymously, we will read the responses, and then Russ and I will go through our understanding of the topic and our take on it, and sort of address, maybe you get it right, maybe you get it wrong. It's okay. It doesn't really matter, but it'll be a fun little interaction and maybe a learning experience for both you and us. So
yeah.
How does that sound, Russ? Does that sound okay to you?
I think it sounds fantastic. And any dear listener that sends us feedback and participates in this topic, this grab bag topic, I know it's going to be God tier. Whoever writes, I mean, we know a lot of people who listen to us. We actually don't know a lot of people who listen to us at this point because we are growing pretty quickly. But I know that it's going to be a great take. So dear listener, bring it. We'd love to hear from you. And yes. Yeah, I think it's fantastic, Luke. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Let's move on.
But okay. But before we do, I just wanted to say there are two bots topics that you just raised. One of them. All right. Trump withheld California wildfire disaster funds this week. Right. This is a big move, but he did. Also, two socialist health plans have come out in California, the entire state, and in New York City, where they're going to fund even illegal aliens' health care.
I saw that. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is stuff that Luke and I we know what, don't think we don't know, dear listener. We know what's going on. It's on our radar. We just had too much this week. But man, yeah, since you mentioned the California wildfire and natural resource degradation in California as one of these topics that we might put out to dear listener, I did want to go ahead and call out these two bottom of the stack stories that we're following. Not this week, dear listener, but probably soon. We're going to be getting to these. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So that's great. And don't forget, dear listener, send us your take. Do you agree with this Patreon decision? Do you not agree, and why? That's the real question here. Do you agree? Do you not agree, and why? I was while you were talking, Russ, I realized I didn't really actually pose a concrete question to dear listener. So,
it's all good. It's all good. Dear listener knew anyway.
Yeah,
our dear listeners are sharp, boy. They're sharp.
They are.
Yeah.
Keep us on our toes.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
So, all right, we grab bag special now?
We grab bag special.
Oh, I can't. This is the highlight of my week, dude. I can't wait. I just can't wait. So, you want to give us the intro, man? It was your idea, dude.
Yeah, I'll give the intro. So, this week we have for grab bag special, I feel like I need to pronounce her name even worse now that I know I'm doing it wrong. Russ, maybe I'll do it with a southern, maybe I'll say ocasio-cortez.
Yeah, there you go.
We got ocasio-cortez's 60 Minutes interview for this week's grab bag special, dear listener.
Oh yes. I don't
know how this is our first real outright explicit left-winger that we're doing in grab bag special.
It's true.
So
it's true.
Let's see how this goes. I'm interested to see.
Yeah, I am too. And I want to preface this grab bag special, dear listener, with something that I saw last weekend on Judge Janine Pirro's show on Saturday night on Fox. She had Candace Owens on, right? And Candace Owens made a great point about I'm just so sick and I paraphrase, I'm so sick and tired of everybody talking about Ocasio-Cortez so much and, how young she is and all this kind of BS, this bitch is really seriously a 30-year-old ass woman, and she is a danger to our country. She's now to the point where she's speaking with authority about things that are really dangerous. And so we need to take the kitty gloves off with this woman. Luke and I couldn't agree more. Luke and I do take her very seriously, by the way. We almost hate to give her attention here in the hallowed halls of HSP. We really do. But nonetheless, there is no doubt that she is going to espouse some ideas that have to be taken down. And we're taking it upon ourselves to do so.
Yeah, there's a couple of little gems that I really, really hope we land on. Oh, God.
All right.
I mean,
we'll find them.
Yeah, and in fact, dear listener, Robert and I are actually covering. Did I tell you about this, Russ?
No, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, you did last night. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're going to cover one tomorrow.
All right, good, very
so
good.
Even if we do miss it,
this is a perfect tee up.
Yeah, even if we do miss it here in this grab bag special, Robert and I are going to cover it tomorrow. Well, actually, now I hope we don't get it because then I'm going to content cuck myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have no idea about any of the bits in this interview. This is just something that there has been so much going on this week, dear listener, that I just kind of tuned out this interview. But I do know that it was huge, right? I know that everybody is talking about it. So some stuff went down in it. I just don't know specifically what, although I think I have a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we're about to destroy it now. So let's do this.
Yes, sir. All right, let's do it. Where do you want to go to, man? Now, also, dear listener, we are playing from a website that we don't normally use. There are issues with this player, so we may have a couple of technical issues maybe some gaps as we hit play. So please just bear with us. We'll get through this. Luca, where you want to go, man? How far into this do you want to jump? We probably need to take it pretty close to the top, wouldn't you say?
When I clicked on it, it was like all the way up until at least 5 minutes in. It was just like Anderson Cooper and her like taking a stroll probably down her street in Brooklyn or something. So I would actually say you probably should jump to it like minute 10 at least.
Minute 10. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're coming to minute 10 right here. No, that's a little too late. All right. Here it is.
Have health care. That is not dignified.
A group of Bernie Sanders supporters, who now call themselves Justice Democrats, encouraged Ocasio-Cortez to run for office and gave her training and support. She built a grassroots coalition that took on the Democratic machine by going door to door.
Hi, Sadia. I'm Alexandria.
Arguing that she could represent the district better than a 10-term incumbent who spent most of his time in Washington.
Have a good day.
Please welcome Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Her victory made national news.
I'm laughing because it's like, hi, I'm Alexandria. Yeah. I'm running for Congress.
I was thinking the same thing, dude. I know.
So good, man. Can't write this stuff, dude.
Yeah. I know it is. And I mean, one thing I will comment since we went ahead and paused. Okay, dear listener, there is an element to truth to this about how hard she campaigned and how she came out on top, right? But Luke and I have also, when she won her election, she won this election because of demographic change in her district, right? There's no way an old white guy is going to win in this district anymore because it's completely flipped populations, right? So yes, she did work hard, and I don't want to diminish her efforts, right? But the fact of the matter is that demographic tailwinds brought her into this office, and that is the fact of the matter right there.
Indeed, yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, let's hear what oh God, was that Stephen Colbert? God, that guy's he's so insufferably annoying.
I know. I used to love Colbert's show so much when he was on Comedy Central, and then he got the late night show, and I'm just like, oh God, it is insufferable. Yeah. Well, let's hear what he has to say. Here we go.
The many veteran lawmakers. Some saw in her primary victory a craving for change within the Democratic Party. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi drew a more limited conclusion.
They made a choice in one district. So let's not get yourself carried away.
But President Trump rarely missed a chance to suggest that all Democrats were socialists who'd lead the country to ruin.
Venezuela.
Where's the lie?
Venezuela.
Yeah, where is the lie?
You like Venezuela?
When people hear the word socialism, they think Soviet Union, Cuba, Venezuela. Is that what you have in mind?
Of course not. What we have in mind, and my policies most closely resemble what we see in the UK, in Norway, in Finland, in Sweden.
How are you going to pay for all of this?
Okay, hold on. Stop right there, Russ.
How we're going to pay for this?
Yeah, I've got plenty. I've got plenty, man.
So, this I love this little argument where it's like, oh no, we're not going to be Cuba, we're not going to be Venezuela, we're going to be Norway and the UK, and we're going to be Sweden. Like there's so much to unpack here. Okay, like Sweden, for example, like Sweden collapsed in the 90s. They economically collapsed completely, total collapse. They have been privatizing. They're becoming less socialist and more capitalist since the 90s. The extent to
that's my point. Yes.
The extent to which, and I think there was another ocasio-cortez quote out there, Ocasio, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it. But whatever. I don't care. There's another one. There's another quote of hers out there talking about like, oh, Sweden is my model. Okay. So Sweden was doing really well. In fact, I can't remember the guy's name. I'll look this up. I can talk about it next week. But there was a guy in, I think it was the 1800s, the 19th century. He was like going on about, like, he was a very prolific writer out of Sweden. And he was a philosopher. And he was like a huge proponent of free markets, of individual liberty. Like, I can't remember the guy's name. But like that, like Sweden's history is steeped in that guy up until about the 50s. And then in the 50s, after World War II, this sort of ocasio-cortez mentality of socialism caught on. And they started voting more power towards workers' rights. And it actually reached a point in which the companies, the corporations actually were having to pay a portion of the wages to it was a fund. I think it was just called the wage fund, actually, which the workers' unions controlled. And then the workers' unions were using that money that the companies were paying into to buy stocks in those companies. So
that's right, man.
So they were using this money to take over the very companies that were being forced to pay for it by the government. And basically everybody ended up just throwing up their hands, and they were just like, no, like actually IKEA left during this time. IKEA was a Swedish company, and they left during this time.
That's correct.
And I think they moved to Italy, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not.
I think that's right.
Yeah. I think they moved to Italy. I could be wrong on that one, dear listener, so don't quote me on that specific little detail. But this went on for 40 years. It took 40 years, and then by the 90s, Sweden was just collapsed. They had hyperinflation. Their economy collapsed. They couldn't pay for anything, and they had massive unemployment. And they reversed course, and they're like, okay, so they started privatizing things. In fact, there's a lot of innovation going on there, and the reason some companies don't go to the U.S. is because of consumer protection laws are so difficult to get through in the U.S. It's much easier to develop products in Sweden. So like we're missing out on a lot of innovation in the U.S. There's products being developed, built, and sold in Sweden and Europe that are not even allowed to be imported into the U.S. as a result of onerous consumer protection laws. So, like, Sweden is actually moving more towards freedom and capitalism, at least economically. Now culturally, when it comes to like schooling and these sorts of things, they have full straight on like charter schooling. You can just send your kid to wherever you want. You're not forced to send your kid wherever. So they actually have a lot of competition in schooling, even more so than the United States. So Sweden, to the extent that they have moved away from what Ocasio-Cortez is describing, is the extent to which they have saved themselves from Venezuela. Exactly, Venezuela. They were on a path to become Venezuela. They had collapsed. They were on the way there. Bags were packed. They were in the car, and they were driving to Venezuela, economically speaking. And they said, holy shit, we need to turn around. This is a disaster. And thankfully for them, they did. So so don't let them get away with this nonsense when they cite these. And like Norway, like they just nationalized their oil. And they talk about like Sweden and Norway. Oh, they're so environmentally friendly. Like literally all of Norway's coffers comes from the oil industry. They nationalized their oil industry, and the government just literally, it's basically their government is an oil company. That's what it is. All of their money comes from oil. They get all their money from oil. This is the only reason they have anything. But even then, I mean, good luck buying, even if you're Norwegian, good luck saving up the money to buy a house. It's impossible. You just inherit house from generation to generation. There's no... so life there isn't particularly nice. There's also happiness index studies, which I find to be suspect, but nonetheless, I mean, people, the Swedish, Minnesota has a huge Swedish population. The Swedish Minnesotans are, according to this index, again, perhaps suspect, still though, the ones living in Minnesota are much happier than the actual Swedes still living in Sweden. And then Denmark is another darling child of theirs. Denmark is ranked higher on the Economic Freedom Index than the United States is. It's like, what socialism are you talking about? I mean, you can't demean corporations. You can't demean corporations, talk about how we need regulations, and then at the same time talk about how we need all of this funding and socialism. Like, pick one. You can't have both, because Sweden already tried it. They collapsed. Norway tried it, and they had to turn their government into an oil company, which is, I mean, I wish it was a privatized oil company. I don't have anything against oil. So don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that, like, oh, they need to abandon that and then adopt renewables. But, if they did that, they would collapse overnight. But, Norway had to turn their government into an oil company to pay for all of this. Sweden tried. They collapsed. Now they're moving away from it. And Denmark is, kind of this mishmash, but at least they're, Russ, this is the thing about, like, European politics. They're much more practical than the United States are. They're much more rational about it. They at least look at it and they go, okay, well, if we're going to be socialist, we have to figure out a way to pay for it. So they're like, okay, well, capitalism works really well. Okay, cool. Let's free up the economy and, like, generate a bunch of tax revenue so we can pay for all this. They're much more practical. Yes. In the U.S., they're just like, business, profits, evil. And then that's it.
Yeah.
And
man, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Yeah, well, dude, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, you actually put it way more eloquently and factually than I would have been able to do. But, like, dear listener, these are capitalist societies. These are societies which are based upon trade, which are based upon the production of oil. And Luke is 100% correct. And the only thing really that I would have to add is, let's not forget what happened in the presidential election season. I am reading from Investors Business Daily right now. The Danes apparently have grown weary of Senator Bernie Sanders insulting their country. Denmark is not a socialist nation, says its prime minister. It has a market economy. All right. While appearing in New Hampshire in September, Sanders said that he had talked to a guy from Denmark who told him that Denmark, it is very hard to become very rich, but it is very hard to be very, very poor. And that makes a lot of sense to me, says Uncle Bernie. Okay. Now, what ended up happening is that the Danes pushed back on Uncle Bernie for calling them socialist. While speaking at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, the center-right Danish Prime Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said that he was aware that some people in the U.S. associate the Nordic model with some sort of socialism. Therefore, he said, and I quote, "I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy." So shut up, Ocasio-Cortez. Like, what you're saying is factually incorrect. We understand that you're making a moral argument, okay, and we're willing to contend with your moral argument as such, but you can't lie. You cannot lie. You can't just literally HSP Boy's going to call you out.
Ignore history.
Yeah. That's right.
It's just so superficial. It's like, hey, let's just ignore all of history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this really speaks to the power of moral arguments. Russ and I were talking about this. I think it was our pre-show call. The power of moral arguments. This is how powerful they are. It's like, in spite of history, in spite of data, in spite of economics, in spite of everything that we know in terms of what works and what has worked historically, in spite of all of that, all you have to do is make a moral argument and all of that's out the window. Just like that.
Yep. Powerful concept, man. Very true. Yeah. Very true. So, we respect that the fact that Ocasio-Cortez is speaking to in terms of morality. She's debating on moral principles, ethical principles. Okay, she's debating on this front. We respect that. We're going to meet her right there. We are going to call her out on her BS when she throws it, and she just threw a doozy of a BS bombshell just then. She just threw a doozy, dear listener. So, and again, this goes back to what Luke and I said when we talked about democratic socialism. I think that was our deep dive in episode 2 of HSP.
No,
is that correct?
6.
I think it was. Episode 6. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So go check it out, dear listener, because we did a pretty good takedown of democratic socialism. It's all just socialism. That's all it is. Don't let this camel get its nose under your tent. You're going to be saddled with this camel up inside your tent before you know it, dear listener. Don't let him get away with this. Candace Owens is absolutely correct. These are extremely dangerous ideas that she just throws out. Like, my policies are blah, blah, blah. They're just this. They're just this. I just want everybody to have everything for free. There is no free, dear listener. There is no free lunch ever. Somebody pays somebody.
Well,
Ocasio-Cortez wants you to pay, dear listener, is what the bottom line.
Yeah, I think that. I think I don't want to say a better way, but I mean, I think another way to put that would just simply be that somebody creates the value to pay for it. Somebody has to create the value to pay for it. Literally nothing is free. Not even bending down to drink a water out of a stream for a caveman. Not even that's free, because that required caloric expenditure. Absolutely correct. Taking a breath of air requires caloric expenditure. Nothing in terms of your life and living here on Earth, nothing is free for you. Somebody is creating the value. And either it's being stolen from somebody and given to you, or you are creating it. That's it.
Yes. That's it, man. That's it. Oh, man. She's only said 2 sentences and we've already BTFO'd her so hard. I love it, man. I kind of want to continue from right here, though, man. I would agree.
Yeah. Because I think she was going on about something.
Force. No one asked how we paid for a $2 trillion tax cut. We only ask how we pay for it on issues of housing, healthcare, and education.
All right, I got to back this up. Sorry, Luke. Sorry about
same
this.
Exact mechanisms. No one asked what we see in the UK, in Norway, in Finland, in Sweden.
How are you going to pay for all of this?
No one asks how we're going to pay for this Space Force. No one asked how we paid for a $2 trillion tax cut.
Hold on, stop right there, Russ. I already have...
Factually incorrect. Yes, Luke and I did question.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 things to say on this. First of all, this Anderson Cooper thing, where he's just like, how are we going to pay for this? I mean, listen, think about the implicit understanding in that. Just that very question delivers a message. That very question says, oh, no, it's all noble. Oh, the Nordic model. Oh, yeah, we're totally on board with that. That's great. Wonderful. The Nordic model. That's what we all want. That's the noble. That's the moral ideal. That's what we're all after. Now, the real question is, how are you going to pay for it? And that's the implicit understanding in that question. It's not why should we be after that as such. It's how are we going to pay for it? So, dear listener, your antennae need to be raised to these sorts of things. Think about the implicit premises in these questions. This is called setting the frame. So she is setting the frame, and of course he's going to buy into it because he already agreed to the frame before she even said it. But the frame is, that's the ideal. And now his quote unquote hardball question is, how are we going to pay for it?
Right. Yeah. This is what you call a softball question right here, dear listener. Right. Like this question is to edify Ocasio-Cortez, right? It's not to put her on the spot and make her defend herself. No, it's a chance to give her a platform upon which to stand to boost her nonsense even louder. That's all that question is. Softball question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was already, we're about to play it again because I rolled back 20 seconds. But, she was like, nobody asked how we're going to pay for Space Force. Like, notice the vocal fry, Space Force.
Dude, I was going to say, man.
Nobody asked how we're going to.
The best thing that the right has going for them against her is her Valley Girl Fry voice. It's just so hard to take her seriously.
It is, man. It is.
But, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Russ.
Well, the only point I wanted to make is this. Nobody asked how we're going to pay for a $2 trillion tax cut, right? Dear listener, I'll tell you exactly how we're going to pay for a $2 trillion tax cut. We got the tax cut, and tax receipts have increased quarter over quarter. The government is making so much money off of this tax cut, right? Because people are spending more money. There are more opportunities for the government to tax things because the velocity of money has increased. And dear listener, we're not talking about a little bit of an increase going on. We're talking about about 150 billion, right? Tax receipts just last quarter alone were 800 billion. That's off of consumer. Now, it is true that corporate tax receipts are a little bit down. They're a little bit down, right? Nonetheless, every time throughout history, JFK, Reagan, these huge tax cuts that both of them brokered, the government made more money in tax receipts when the people have more money to spend, right? So don't let her get away with this BS about how we're going to pay for a $2 trillion tax cut. I'll tell you how. The government's making more money off of that tax cut. Ocasio-Cortez, that's how.
Well, that's how. Yeah, I mean, and not only that, I don't really care. I mean, I'd rather the government just made less money. But and spend less money.
Same here. I mean, me too.
I mean, actually, maybe in the near term, I'm okay with them making more money if they spend less, so they can pay more of the debt off. I'm actually okay with like our current tax rate if they just reduce spending all the way down and we pay our debt off entirely over the course of the next like 5 years or something. You know, I'd be okay with that, and then they lower taxes. But like this idea that you have to pay for a tax cut is such a huge, egregious conceptual fallacy.
Yes, it is.
Because you don't pay.
It's a lie. It's not a conceptual fallacy. It is a blatant lie, Luke. That's what it is. But go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like. Okay, when you pay for something, you get something in return. It's called a. I know this is something that, you know, a concept that's ocasio-cortez has probably never come across, but it's called a transaction, right? when you exchange two things, when you give somebody money and they give you something back, right? And you both benefit because, like we talked about, I think it was on the last episode, the money you're giving them is worth less to you than the thing they're giving you is to them, right? So it's a mutual benefit. Right. They'd rather have your money and you'd rather have their thing, whatever they're giving you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called a transaction, and it's a trade for mutual benefit. So that's when you pay for something, you get something in return. When you steal less of something, you're not getting anything. You're just stealing less. That's it. You don't pay for something that you're stealing. Like, you don't have to pay for something that you decide not to steal anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's all taxes are. It's you know, this is the big libertarian meme, you know, whatever. But it's true. I mean,
but it's true.
You
yes.
know, prove me wrong. Pro tip: you can't. You know. So like, you don't have to pay for something when you just say, I'm not going to steal it from somebody anymore. I'm not going to forcibly. And I don't care if it's democratic. I don't care if we all voted on it. I don't care if a king did. I don't care. If you take something from somebody without asking and against their will, that's theft. And I don't care who voted on it and who said so. It's theft.
At the literal point of a gun, dear listener, because guess what's going to happen to you if you don't pay your taxes? They're going to raid your home. If you protest in any way, they're going to shoot and kill you. But if you don't protest and just lay down on the ground and put your hands on your head, you're going downtown, dear listener. It's under threat of force that you must pay these taxes. That is literal threat. That's like being held up by a robber on the road. Let me point a gun at you. Give me all your money or you're going to die. That's what's happening. This is literal theft.
Yeah. And you don't have to pay for, you know, when you decide to not steal as much, you don't pay for that. You pay for things like the wall. You pay for things like welfare. You pay for things like foreign policy. You pay for congressional salaries. You pay for these things, right? Hopefully it's for a purpose. You don't pay for tax cuts. That's not something you pay for. That's just you decide to take less of people's stuff. So this whole how are we going to pay for the tax cuts is just it's so infuriating because it is infuriating, egregiously dishonest, so egregious.
It is. Yes, deliberately so, man.
Yeah,
it gets under my skin too, bro. It really does. So. I say we take her from right here, man.
Let's
keep going right here. What do you think? All right, here it comes.
We ask how we pay for it on issues of housing, healthcare, and education. How do we pay for it? With the same exact mechanisms that we pay for military increases, for the Space Force, for all of these ambitious policies.
There are Democrats, obviously, who are worried about your effect on the party. Democratic Senator Chris Coons said about left-leaning Democrats, if the next 2 years is just a race to offer increasingly unrealistic proposals, it'll be difficult for us to make a credible case we should be allowed to govern again.
What makes it unrealistic?
How to pay for it.
We pay more per capita in healthcare and education for lower outcome.
What you got?
Yeah, I mean, that whole question is this just is demonstrative of this creep to the left. When who was that?
Sure
Chris, whatever that guy saying, he was like, you know, his contention was not like, should we do this or not? His contention was, if we do that now, we're going to have a hard time getting elected. I mean, this is, I mean, don't think for a minute.
Chris Coons.
Don't think for a minute that this neo-blob middle is not on board with her. It's for them, it's just a matter of strategy.
Sure. For sure. For sure. Winning elections, exerting power, gaining power and exerting it. That's what they want, dear listener. They want to control every single part of your life. This is what Ocasio-Cortez is literally saying right now. That's what she wants. Control of your money, control of your education, control of your health care, control of your housing, control of the food you eat, control of your consumer decisions, control of everything. That's what she is arguing right now. In flowery language with vocal fry and all of this stylization that she does. Oh man, this woman, I swear, Luke, I don't understand why she gets so much attention either, other than the fact that you are correct. She is offering a moral argument, and she is making. Yeah. That's what it is.
Back up
it's an immoral argument, but
back up about 5 seconds, and let's try that again.
Okay, I will. And also, dear listener, I just want to say, I want to call this out once again. Okay, nobody questions how we're going to pay for Space Force. Yeah, Luke and I literally did question how we're going to pay for Space Force. Luke and I are not about Space Force. I mean, in some ways, yes, we are. But that was the very first concern that we raised back in HSP 08, I would say, is this sounds really expensive, man. Not sure that we should be spending money on that right now. How about we try to pay off the debt? How about we stop spending altogether rather than setting up this new black hole of a program called Space Force? You know what I mean? We are literally on record saying it. Go back into the archives and check it out, dear listener. But you could just believe us because it's true. All right, Luke, you want to go back 5 seconds? Is that what you said?
Yeah, just go back about 5 seconds.
All right, I'm coming at you.
What makes it unrealistic?
How to pay for it.
We pay more per capita in healthcare and education for lower outcomes than many other nations. And so for me, what's unrealistic is what we're living in right now.
Since the election, some conservative media outlets have focused on Ocasio-Cortez with an intensity unusual
yeah,
for
I mean, this whole we pay more per capita for healthcare. Well, yeah, U.S. healthcare is way better. Sorry, it's way better.
Yeah. Yes,
I mean,
it is.
I had a friend. She, we have a friend. They're a couple, and she gave birth this summer in Germany, and middle of June, or I don't know, it was June, July, something like that. It was, I don't know, probably about 95 degrees outside, no air conditioning. Anywhere in the hospital, anywhere, it's just suffocating heat. I mean, could you imagine finishing giving birth? And then now you're just
in that. God, no, man.
And then now you're just sweating your ass off for 2 straight days. I mean, I know my friend, he brought in a portable air conditioner into the room to try and cool it off a bit. I mean, again, this is just so telling of how little she knows about the world.
Yeah,
the U.S.
sure
is the best healthcare system in the world, bar none.
Flawed as it is, which it is.
It is deeply flawed.
Yes,
I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying it's a bitch to pay your deductible. There's no deductible here in Germany, which is very, very nice. But it is, when you walk into an American hospital, it's like walking onto the bridge of in Star Trek.
It's
not
true.
the case here. It's the buildings are old. Everything's old. It almost feels like a hand-me-down medical system.
Yeah. Well, the proof also is in the pudding, Luke. I don't have, since I knew we were doing this for Grab Bag Special, I probably should have broken out these numbers, but we can demonstrably prove that tens of thousands of Canadians are coming to the United States to get their medical procedures, particularly surgeries, performed here because the waiting list is so long in Canada. It's distributed healthcare there. So when they need a surgery, they can't get it because there's a backlog of other surgeries because all of this healthcare, quote unquote, care is previously distributed so that you can't get it. And so that people that can afford it come here to the U.S. in the tens of thousands because, man, you got $10,000 in your pocket, we'll get you that appendectomy. Not a problem.
Yeah,
not
dude,
a problem.
all the richest diplomats around the world, they all go to the U.S. for their health care.
That's right. That's right.
Have you ever thought about this? This is so funny to me whenever people talk about Canada. It's like, I always tell people, there's a reason why all of the major, every Canadian city that's even worth mentioning is right along the U.S. border. All of them.
It's true.
The interior of Canada is just vast nothingness.
It's true.
It's everything is
true.
right next to us.
It's absolutely true. And a lot of that has to do with, yes, simple economics. A lot of it, to be fair, does have to do with the fact that the middle and north of Canada is a frozen tundra, and they have extremely brutal winters there. But like a lot of it has to do with the economics of the United States.
Yeah, but dude,
straight up,
I mean, Hong Kong was a freaking rock. It was like a rock in the ocean beforehand.
Yeah.
Now it's like one of the nicest places to live in the world.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In any case, shall we continue?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump ahead a little bit. They're trashing Hannity right now. They're playing a clip of Hannity, probably trashing Ocasio-Cortez. So where you want to jump to, man? What do you think's good?
Let's go to. Well, the whole clip is what, 44 minutes, right?
Yes, but I don't think that's all Ocasio-Cortez. I don't know. I would imagine that they did about 20 minutes of her, 20 minutes. They do 3 stories on 60 minutes. So I would imagine her clip is 20 minutes.
So like the 10 to 30 minute mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're at about, well, let me click on it. Man, this player sucks balls. We're at 12:31 right now.
Well, let's jump to minute 15.
All right, here it comes. All right, sorry about this, dear listener. Bear with me. All right, here it is, 15 minutes.
Would you be taking a creep shot of Steny Hoyer's behind and sharing it around? Why is there more comfort in doing that to me than there is in doing it to any other member of Congress?
Eliminating the influence of corporate money in politics is another one of Ocasio-Cortez's signature issues.
I think I recall this. We missed the explanation, but I think what happened is somebody took a picture of her ass on Capitol Hill on the first day of on January 3rd, the day that Congress was sworn in. And it was not particularly lurid. You know what? Let's just back up and find the context of this, what they're talking about. And what she did is she turned it into, oh my God, taking a creep shot of me, blah, 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 publicity. That's all she was doing, trying to drum up publicity, right? Kind of like that sexy dance video that she did when she was in college, where she's all, whoring it up, dancing in front of a wall, and dancing really suggestively before. That
was so cringe.
It was cringe, man. And then then the left comes out like, oh my God, conservatives are lol, they're outraged about her dancing and blah blah blah. And like the fact check of this is that conservative media outlets were like, bro, we didn't say anything. Did you say anything? No, you didn't say anything. You didn't. Okay, there's nothing here on Drudge. Who exactly was outraged by Ocasio-Cortez dancing like a whore in front of a wall on a rooftop in Brooklyn? Precisely nobody was outraged by it. It was another publicity campaign to try to push Ocasio-Cortez because of her looks, because of her sexiness, just like what she did with this creep shot thing, which I think is what she's talking about, but I can't prove it. When she said creep shot, I'm sure that's what it is. Somebody took a picture of her, not of her ass. They just took a picture of her from behind in the halls of Congress. That's it. It was just a picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all it was. Just a picture. Yeah. But got to work that publicities, though, man, I suppose. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Shall we roll from here?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here it comes.
Came from small donations of $200 or less. She did accept some money from labor unions, but she refuses to take any contributions from corporate political action committees. She's angered some of her colleagues in the House by encouraging primary challenges of Democrats who accept corporate money or oppose progressive policies.
These are politically dangerous tactics that you're using. You've heard that.
Yeah.
Do you believe it?
It's absolutely risky. It requires risk to try something new, but also we know so much of what we've tried in the past hasn't worked either.
Okay. Whatever that means.
I mean, I think it's just pragmatism. It's like, had it worked in the past, we'd do that too. What she's saying is, oh yeah, we would totally accept corporate money, but that didn't work in the past. That's what she's saying. Mm-hmm. This unprincipled approach. It's like, dear listener, have some principle. I'm not saying you don't, but I'm imploring upon you, have some principles, because this is the sort of trouble, the hot water you'll find yourself in, is saying something like this, which is, you've spoken out against these people for accepting corporate money, blah, blah, blah. This is what Anderson Cooper is saying, which the subtext there being out of moral reasons, because we want to get money out of politics. That's what that's supposed to be about, that question. And then she's like, yeah, of course it's risky in trying something new, but it didn't work in the past. And then it's like, right there, that she would totally do it if it worked.
Yep.
And that's all she's saying. Yep. She's like, no, I'm not against it per se. I'm not against it as such. It just didn't work. This is pragmatism. It's unprincipled ideology. So had it worked, she would have done it. That's all that means. So she's not against corporate buying. Oh, and by the way, like, she accepted money from labor unions. Oh, but not political action committees. What is a labor union if not a political? That is from where do labor unions derive their power? From politics, from politicians.
Yep.
That's where labor unions derive their power. This is why they give money to politicians. I mean,
took the words right out of my mouth.
God, dude, people are so dense, man.
She is such just a
but not just her, everybody, all of them. Black hole. Anderson Cooper, all of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
As if like labor unions are this like some noble, like, we're here to protect the common man. No, you're not. You are there for union dues. That's it.
Yes. Yep. For money and power, just like every other political organization, which you are, like every other PAC, if you will, which is what a labor union is. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, oh my God, Luke, this woman makes my teeth itch, man. She truly does. The look of her, the sound of her voice, her rhetoric.
Yeah, no, you have it particularly bad because you have to look at it. I just have to listen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but that's still bad enough, man. I mean, this vocal fry that she keeps busting, trying to make herself look cute. Oh my God, took a creep shot. Why would anybody do that to me rather than anybody in Congress? I'm just not gonna say it. But like, man, just a black hole, dear listener. That's what we're dealing with right here. Just an absolute black hole. Just
indeed
nothing. Absolute infinite nothingness. So, all right, Luca, let's take one or two more drops and let's ride on out of here.
Yeah, let's do one more and then call it an episode. What do you say?
All right, very good. So we're at the 60 minutes ticker right now. I'm going to have to click back into it, and we are at probably about 16 minutes and 15 seconds. I would imagine this clip is probably goes out at about 20. So how about we skip on down the line about another minute? How's that sound to you? Go to like 17:15, 17:30?
Yeah, sure.
All right, sounds good to me. All right, so tick, 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 tick. All right, here's 17.
He was sentenced to life in this Egyptian prison.
All right, I'm going to skip forward.
Do you have
No, we're already out of court teeth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, should we skip back a little bit? I mean, because I do want to do one more drop. You know what I'm saying? Should we skip back?
Yeah. Go back for sure.
Okay. All right. I'm going to grab bag, pure and simple. Just grab one.
Guaranteeing every American a job at a fair wage. You're talking about zero carbon emissions, no use of fossil fuels within 12 years?
That is the goal. It's ambitious. And
how is that possible? You're talking about everybody having to drive an electric car?
It's going to require a lot of rapid change that we don't even conceive as possible right now. What is the problem with trying to push our technological capacities to the furthest extent possible?
This would require, though, raising taxes.
There's an element where, people are going to have to start paying their fair share in taxes.
Do you have a specific on the tax rate?
You look at our tax rates back in the 60s, and when you have a progressive tax rate system,
I know where she's going with this too, man. All right. First of all, dear listener, what she is advocating for quite literally is government control of the means of production in order to get us off of fossil fuels. The government basically shuts down the petroleum industry and transitions us into some kind of black hole that we have no idea, nor does she. Nobody has any idea. Dear listener, this is the textbook definition of fascism. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just outed herself as a true fascist. That is what she advocates, literally, on 60 Minutes.
Far worse than that, she has now asserted herself to be a pro-death person. She wants people to die, because that is what is going to happen when you do this. Newsflash, tractors don't run on wind. Our food has to get produced somehow. And it's not by wind, it's not by solar. People have to get to work. Buildings need to be air conditioned. When she's like, people don't even conceive of it as possible. They don't even want to conceive of it at all. They don't even want to think about it. Because that means everybody's poor. I mean, the damage that has been done to a place like Germany, who's taken the most radical approach to renewable, quote unquote, with that, we can get into this at some point too, but that's also a fallacious term, renewable energy. I mean, the extent to which Germany has adopted that over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, they have impoverished their citizens so dramatically. It is that's unthinkable, correct, and they haven't even done anything. I think Germany produces still 1 or 2 or 3% or something of their power from renewables. They're actually building coal plants right now.
Yeah.
So they tried on the largest scale of any other country. Even for this, it's a very small scale, and it turned out to be a complete disaster. I mean,
yes, sir.
I know of an old lady who is actually having to move out of her apartment that she's lived in for 50 years.
Yeah, you mentioned that on a previous show, man. That broke my heart, dude. That really does.
Yeah, I would like to have.
You gotta be kidding me,
I would like to have Ocasio-Cortez tell her, you need to move out of your apartment because it's just too expensive. You just don't need that apartment. I know you've lived here for 50 years. I know that you've lived here for roughly twice the amount of time that I've been alive. You've lived in this apartment. But you know what? You shouldn't be able to afford to live here.
You see it, there it is, dear listener. This is exactly what they want. They want control of every facet of your life, including where you choose to live.
Yeah, she is pure evil. This woman is pure evil.
She is.
All of these people, all of these eco-fascists are pure anti-life, pro-human death, filth, pure evil. You should...
Yes.
Oh, God, man. I get so... Because it's just so...
It's triggering. I know.
It is... the destruction that they are trying to impart, and they think they're doing something good, but this is just the destruction, the damage that they are doing is so egregious. I can't even. It's another level. It's truly evil. I don't know how else to say it. It's just evil.
No, it is. There's no reason to put it any other way because that's what it is. And one last fact about this, Ocasio-Cortez. I'm going to tell you something. All right, in 12 years' time, we're going to get off fossil fuels, right? And we're going to transition to whatever is possible in terms of energy production. I'm going to tell you something, honey. Africa dies in 12 years. If that's what your plan really is, Africa is dead in 12 years. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? We certainly don't advocate for that. Now, why is it that I say this, dear listener? Because Africa is fed by the West. They are powered by the West. They are built by the West. And how is this happening? We are using fossil fuels to get resources to Africa, which is rather ironic because Africa has immeasurable resources there itself, and China has figured this out, and they are capitalizing.
We actually generate a ton. I mean, could you imagine the destruction that this would do to the African economy if all the oil companies pulled out of Equatorial Guinea and Chad?
It's immeasurable. It's immeasurable. Yeah. And, not to mention, then we can't get all of this aid that we basically provide for an entire continent, and not just the United States, all of the West, but the United States does the lion's share of aid in Africa. Now, all of a sudden, you can't use oil to run ships to get over there to the West African ports. They're dead. They're dead. Yeah. Ebola takes over that whole continent immediately. They're dead.
These people are so... like just every negative descriptor you could imagine. Evil, dumb, stupid, short-sighted, immoral, all of this. Environmentalism is all of that bundled together and then packaged in a political ideology. That is what environmentalism is. It's so evil.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is, man. Man, Candace Owens is quite right. This interview chilled me to the bone, Luke. It really does, because now she has a platform. Now she's empowered by Anderson Cooper himself. You know what I mean? By 60 Minutes themselves, that media organization itself, for her to spout this BS and try to meme it into reality. It really chilled me to the very fabric of my being. It is really scary.
Yeah,
and dear listener, I'm not being histrionic. This is really scary stuff that she is saying with her vocal fry. Unironically. Yeah. This is what she wants. She wants us dead. She wants us all dead. It's really scary.
I don't think that she consciously and actively thinks that she wants everybody dead, but she just doesn't realize that it's going to massively impoverish everybody. Now, like one thing that really annoys the shit out of me, I'll just say that, sorry, dear listener, but that really annoys me is that I wish the right would take this more seriously. It's like they're over here circle jerking about something totally unimportant compared to this. It's like the left, they're after the goods. Environmentalism transcends politics. It like hits at the very culture, at the very core of our being.
At humanity itself, not just the culture, at our sustainable survivability. Yeah. That's what it gets to.
Yeah.
Yes. And as a species.
And then the right's just over here off distracted by other things. And then ocasio-cortez is over here just carte blanche saying whatever the hell she wants. Getting America off fossil fuels in 12 years. I mean, why is Tucker Carlson why is nobody coming out about this? I don't get it.
Well, to be fair, some are. Candace Owens said that on the Judge's show
Candace
last
Owens
weekend.
was on Joe Rogan like a month ago going like, I don't know that much about, renewables and fossil fuels and environmentalism. I don't know. I haven't read a whole lot about that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Ooh.
I don't, whenever her appearance was, it was somewhat recent. I mean, she clearly hadn't even thought about it before. Like, it was just sort of like, I've read. I mean, I know I'm generally against it. And Joe Rogan was like, but there's plenty of scientists that say this. And she was like, well, and she was just totally didn't even know what to do. I was just like,
that's disappointing,
God.
man.
They're not even concerned about this stuff.
That's very disappointing because she's a smart gal. I mean, she truly is. And she has what it takes to go up against forces like Ocasio-Cortez. But she needs to know, you know what, Candace? Listen to HSP.
I mean, everybody needs to get red-pilled. I mean, it's very, very difficult to think through something on your own for the first time. Okay, so, I don't blame her for not knowing, but she needs to red-pill herself, and so does the rest of the right. They need to red-pill themselves on environmentalism and realize that energy is, Alex Epstein calls it this, he calls it energy is the food of food. Which is really to say that energy is the food of everything. Everything we do requires energy. So when you're talking about something like what Ocasio-Cortez is talking about, you are talking about impacting literally every aspect of your life. How expensive your baby's pacifier is. Guess what? That's made out of fossil fuels. How expensive it is for you to drive to work. How expensive it is for you to heat your home. How expensive it is for you to cool your home. How expensive it is to have your medicine produced, because that requires fossil fuels. How expensive it is for your business to cool the office. They're going to have to consider that, how to heat the office, buy office chairs. How much are office chairs going to cost? How much is this impacts literally every facet of your life. Everything.
Yeah. Your cell phone, your computer monitor, your water bottle, your the lid on your liquor bottle, the lid on the Pringles can that you get, the lamps in the corner of your room, the vacuum. I'm just looking around my room right now and looking at everything.
To fly home for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be impossible, literally impossible. under Ocasio-Cortez proposals. You wouldn't be able to do that, dear listener. You're stuck.
What
stuck.
Anderson Cooper should have asked her was like, oh, okay, cool. So you're gonna make so you're suggesting that within the next 12 years, somebody is going to create and get approved through consumer protection agencies solar powered planes on a scale that is going to allow people to travel like they are now. In the next 12 years.
Indeed.
Good luck with that. And she's, well, I know it's not realistic, but we need ambitious goals. Why are these are not ambitious goals. These are destructive goals. These are not ambitious.
Yes. And completely impossible with our modern science right now. Completely impossible. You know? I mean, are you going to invent it yourself, Cortez? No, you're not. You're going to, put the full force of the government on some other poor bastard's back that's going to invent something that will fail, right? Maybe someday, Ocasio-Cortez, maybe someday we'll discover free energy. There is infinite energy all around us, right? Guess what? We can't get to it by any means that we currently know. In all factors, there is nothing we know that would lead us to this energy.
Yeah.
At all. We can't get it.
The one natural resource, I think we could end the show on this. The one natural resource, unless you got something else for us, but the one natural resource we have, there is only one natural resource. In fact, this actually ties up nicely because I wanted to talk about like what natural resources are. There is no such thing as a natural resource. I mean, it used to be the case that when oil was coming up through the ground, that farmland was undesirable because we hadn't figured out yet how, at that point, to use oil.
Not very long ago as well, dear listener, like just over 100 years, slightly over 100 years.
Yeah, and there was, one of the earliest cultures that actually figured out how to domesticate animals and learn farming is, Hammurabi. I think it was back then.
Yeah.
It's like one of the first, one of the first societies. I mean, back then, like they actually, like dealing with gasoline was a huge problem for them because it was super flammable and they were extracting clay from the ground and then also basically gasoline. And they had to deal with this like very, very pesky substance called gasoline. And so they had like a process of how to get rid of it. And just so they could get the clay from the ground. So, I mean, so the point of this is that like, there is no such thing as a natural resource. We humans have to use our brains to figure out what is a reason.
The human mind.
Even water does not come to you drinkable, generally speaking. I'm sure there are other narrow circumstances, but like we had to figure out like where we could. But even then, like we still had to figure out which water we could drink, which we couldn't. Which water we could drink, which water we couldn't drink. There's springs you can drink from, there's springs you can't drink from. You still have to think about it. So even the very water had to be figured out which water we could drink. I mean, that's like the most. Sorry, dear listener. That's like the most basic understanding of what a natural resources be, and even that we have to apply our minds to. So there is no such thing as a natural resource. This is just total and complete nonsense. That there's a such thing as a natural resource, but there is one. There is one natural resource, and not even the sun is a natural resource because that will go away one day. And even when we do harness that, we still have to figure out how to harness that, even if it's through plants, and we have to figure out how to cultivate plants. There's one natural resource that we have, that we are born with, and everybody has, and that is the brain. That is your brain, which is to think.
The human mind.
The human mind. That is the only natural resource that we have, is our minds. And we flourish when we are in a society which allows us to use that freely without initiating force on others. And these policies, like what Ocasio-Cortez is proposing, is massive show of force on the human mind. To force people to go against their will and choose certain forms of energy, in spite of the fact that they are intermittent, unreliable, and expensive, and terrible.
Yes. So far, yes. And furthermore, even with all of the plights, all of the efforts of the human mind, we have not found an alternative yet.
No.
Right? Maybe someday we will. It's just can't even conceive of it as possible right now. Okay, yes, that's true. All right, let's consider it in terms of likely, Ocasio-Cortez. What is the likely case scenario that in 12 years we could create something where we don't have to use fossil fuels? I'm going to call that pretty close to zero. 0%.
I mean, when you're talking about like just pure energy production, so not plastics or anything like this, but when you're talking about just pure energy production for homes and businesses, I mean, we have nuclear. Like that's
true.
But even then, I mean, here's the thing: is like they're against coal, they're against natural gas, they are against oil, they're also against nuclear, which doesn't produce any CO2. All you have to do is just deal with the nuclear waste, which is not that difficult. We know how to do it. They're also against hydro because that, impacts fish and all sorts of other things.
You have to build a dam.
So they're against all of that. They're against all of the forms of energy production, which are even the ones which don't produce CO2. They're even against those. So this isn't about CO2. So oh, God, dude.
I know it's really aggravating, man. And, besides, they say that they're against CO2 and carbon emissions, but the fact remains they still fly around in their private jets. They produce hundreds of times more carbon than you do, dear listener. And by the way, CO2 really isn't even that big of a deal. It's not a waste product. It's a naturally occurring gas. Plants love it. That's what plants use to respirate. They use CO2. You know what I mean? So... yeah, produce more. We'll have more plants. This is great. Right now, I don't want to be callous about pollution. Dear listener, Luke and I are not pro-pollution. Okay, that's not what we're saying, right? But we are saying that the use of energy for our purposes, even if it does create CO2, which really isn't that bad of a problem, is a moral good. We can't live without it. Our entire society, our entire lives are completely dependent upon it. And I would like to think that Ocasio-Cortez understands this herself, but Luke, she is so vacuous, she just might not.
No, she definitely does not. And that's very well put, dude. Very well done. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So,
all right, dude. Does that do it for HSP 22? I thought we were going to end on
I think so, brother.
Yeah. Dear listener, this is why I don't want to do leftists as grab bag special, because I get too triggered. They're so dumb. They're so dumb brother. And destructive. It puts me... This puts me in a bad mood. I mean, man. I'm not in a bad mood. I try to always be in a good mood. Although sometimes I get in a bad mood. But I mean, I don't want to choose something for grab bag I want to end the show on a good note. And this is why I don't do leftists.
Well, we did by BTFOing her, man. I mean, we did because we handed her ass to her. I mean, I know that she doesn't know it, and even if she listened,
about all this, and what if she's successful, and blah blah blah, and then I get blackpilled, So.
I know. And me too, man. It's scary stuff. It's truly scary stuff.
I'd rather sharpen the sword than do this. I don't even know what you'd call this. Jam the sword into the sharpener the way it's not supposed. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I
understand, brother. I understand.
So, dear listener, we did a leftist. I don't know. I'm all about, I'd rather do right-leaning people, because that's more fun.
Yeah, I'd rather keep our own people honest, keep them in line, keep them correct. There's no arguing with a liar, and that's what she is. She's a liar, So, but I think we did pretty good at BTFOing her. And dear listener, we'll probably take a break from leftists for a while. Because I got triggered too, man. I'm pretty triggered, So, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
All right, dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's ride, brother. Great show, man.
Indeed.
Great show.
Dear listener, thank you for joining us for Hardly Strictly Politics, episode number 22. And we can't wait to see you for episode number 23. Russ, do you want to take it out? You got all the social media plugs on lockdown. You're really good at that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Dear listener, let me bring up my stuff. Dear listener, I would like to echo those sentiments. Thank you so much. And don't forget to send us your thoughts on that topic about Sargon of Akkad.
Oh,
okay.
Good
This
call.
is very important. We would love to hear from you. Yes. So please get back at us and let us know what you think. In the meantime, we know you're going to miss us so terribly. You can find us on Facebook at Zero Gravity Med, Twitter, Zero Gravity Med. Subscribe to us, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Find us on YouTube. hit us up on our website, hit us up in our own house. Come visit us anytime. Get comfy with the HSP boys. We would love to have you. And also, dear listener, don't forget, if you got something on your mind and you want to write a piece, we would be delighted to publish it on our website, so bring it anytime. We'd be delighted to host you, so come on. And just meanwhile, just let us know how you're doing, what you think, what's going on in your life, what you want us to talk about. We're there for you always, dear listener, always. And thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
All right, dude. You have a good week, man. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good, brother. Peace.
Late.